drown out the opposition by any stretch of imagination. So I would say that that's the sort of mindset you've got to do, is encourage it.
And as those words exit your mouth, Mick Malthouse, the boos ring out across Bellerive as Port Adelaide makes their way out onto the arena. Jason Horne-Francis, of course, part of the 22 this afternoon. North Melbourne fans, you would think, will be getting stuck into him and maybe even a few of his former teammates as well. Score update from the SCG, where Sydney are playing Fremantle. 13 and a half minutes gone in the first term. The Swans lead by 5 points. They are one straight 6-1 behind to the Dockers. Logan McDonald remains the sole goal kicker for the afternoon. So Port Adelaide going through their warm-ups inside the Ford 50. North Melbourne at the other end of the ground having a kick going through their warm-ups as well. Key matchups. Where do you see this game being won and lost, Mick Malthouse, this afternoon? We've sort of spoken about it in the pre-game already, that something of a danger game for Port Adelaide. North Melbourne can get things going here in Hobart, and it's a fluky ground that produces some odd conditions at times.
Well, I just think that any side that's lost three of their key forwards, I won't say key forwards, although Dixon is a key forward, and Rioli has come in and made a difference, whether it be the tack on the football or his marking. And Burn Jones has gone unbelievably. I thought he's just changed his whole game around. So you lose those three players, you've got to replace them with someone. Yes, they've got good quality players, no doubt, coming through, but they're not in their best. They're not better than the ones that have been replaced. You've still got to kick goals to win games. Port they'll rush the ball. There's no question about the way they play. However, Finlayson's kicked 11. Marshall kicked 11. I know that Marshall's missed one or two. Powell Kepper's kicked 10. They're reliable. There's no question, and they're two talls there. That's Finlayson and certainly Marshall are tall, so it's going to keep North Melbourne occupied. But it's a different setup. I think that the midfield battle will be the one that's going to win or lose it. Simpkin, I really like Simpkin, and they've got Davies Uniacke. He's another one who I think is a highly underestimated player in many respects. And don't underestimate the power of the ruck in Goldstein. Goldstein is a workhorse. The more you play him, the better he gets. The more responsibility he's got. North over the journey have played a second ruck, and he has deteriorated in his game. I don't know whether he feels let down that they don't trust him getting across the ground for full game. But when he rucks by himself, and he'll have there'll be a cameo somewhere along the line, someone will relieve him from time to time, but by and large he'll do 85 to 90% game time. I can't see the North rucks going anywhere near him. So to me there's going to be a dominant ruckman. Now it's what he does with his hand to where it goes. Of course that can be picked off. But games are won and lost through midfield competitiveness in there. Yes, you've got to have key forwards and you've got to have backs that can stop the opposition. But right now, that midfield, I think, is going to be roughly even. I know that Port have got some good players going through there, but I wouldn't underestimate what North Melbourne can do with a ruckman that should take charge over the journey. They'll jump early. By quarter time, we'll probably look at something better. Even by halfway through the second quarter, he'll start to get on top in the ruck, and that's when Port will be under the most pressure.
Another goal's been kicked in Sydney, who now lead by 11 points over Freo at the SCG. We're 16 minutes deep into the first quarter there. James Rowbottom has hit the scoreboard. They're 2 straight 12, the Swans, against
Brother James.
Freo at 1 point. No relation, actually.
Come on.
Get that a little bit. If we are related, then he got all the footy talent, that's for sure. And he left none over for me whatsoever. But good to see him in the goal kickers, James Rowbottom. We'll call him the cousin for now. We can probably get away with that as Port Adelaide and North Melbourne go through their warm-ups. I'm interested also in the game of Jack Zeeble. He gets a lot of football in the defensive 50 for North Melbourne. I think he had 36 disposals last week. He took 18 marks. They didn't kick a winning score at North Melbourne. It's an interesting... They set up around him in defence and like the ball in his hands, but he doesn't strike me as an obvious guy to do that with. Harry Sheasel's had some luck down there as well. What do you think is the thinking behind that?
Well, his days of going forward He's hard, he runs straight, but his size was always going to be a barrier as far as key forward goes, or a forward that was going to take the pressure off the key forward. Midfield, of course, we know, and I said before, you need a change of pace and a bit of grunt. That disappeared. He's a player that just plays with his heart, and he's been knocked around a fair bit, even though as big and tough as he is. But on the back line, he's able to control where he sits, how he plays, who he plays on. But more remarkable, I reckon this year he seems to be a better player without the responsibility of captaincy. And Pendlebury's another one. Pendlebury's a great captain, was a great captain, and could be still leading the side, but he just wanted to be relieved of that leadership. So I'm seeing Zeeble as the same way as I see Pendlebury, that they've both been freed up from the leadership, and they're playing football now. It's sort of like enjoyment. You just almost see him enjoy himself the way he plays. There's no doubt he's got a bit of freedom where he's able to pick off the sixth best forward, and you get away with that when the sixth best forward wants to get to a stoppage 2/3 way up the ground, because you sit off him and all of a sudden you become the man. I know how I'd play him. I'd get my fifth best forward and put him on him and just say, right, your job is to make sure Zeeble, even if they want to go through him, then they're going to go through him and you. So then North Melbourne have to make a decision who they then drop off. And is it a player who can get the football as often as what Zeeble does? Well, you don't want to let Sheezel be that player either as a young player. So it's a little bit of merry-go-round and a little bit of tough love, I suppose, from your forwards having to play defensive type football. But what you end up doing is then take away the thumb from the hand from a player like Zeeble who can just please himself. And I just don't get that. You know, I'm a bit I believe heavily in defence first.
Yep.
And don't let anyone off the hook. Don't give them free rein to say, well, I'll please myself who I play on.
The zones are the thing these days. The standing off 15 metres and allowing the short kick and not manning up. It's a bit of get out, Chris, isn't it? Occasionally for guys that simply don't man up, just a man space. And I guess that's been the evolution of the game. Call it good, call it bad. But
well, go on.
Yeah, well, I don't like it myself.
Good.
I'm an old traditionalist, but I just think if you, I just like to play man on man, and the best man wins at the end of the day.
The best clubs do it though,
yeah.
Michael. You think look at Geelong last year. Stewart picked up someone, Henry picked up someone, Buse was on someone. If Tui was a halfback, he picked up someone. Yeah, okay. Every now and again you might lose that opponent and you just switch over, but it's not higgledy-piggledy. The best clubs who play off in the finals are the ones that have Darcy Moore. You're not going to see him wandering around picking up a 6'5" bloke and then a 4 foot or 5 foot bloke in a swing around, yes, but not on a permanent basis. And Jeremy Howard, centre half back, when he comes back, they'll play their key roles, this sort of stuff. I think it's an out. I really do. And what it does, it makes lazy footballers, because it's all of a sudden you point the finger, say, oh, look, I'm 10 yards off him, I can't get to him. You can get to him from 11 metres. So I'm all for the fact that you play hard-nosed football on your direct opponent, and if you get blocked or swung around, yes, your teammate takes over from it, no question. I don't like going back to 2010, 2011, but that's what Maxwell, O'Brien, Heath Shaw, those sort of players, we assign them certain players, and we only broke that when the opposition were broken and had to change.
So we're a couple of minutes away here from Bellerive. The first bounce looming. Both captains in the middle as we speak. Having a look at the toss, it looks like it's been won by Tom Jonas, the Port Adelaide captain, and the Port Adelaide Footy Club will kick to the left of your radio dial, so to the Church Street end in cricket parlance. And with about a minute before the bounce, we might go down to Andrew Cooling one last time to get a conditions and crowd check. Down to you, Andrew.
Yeah, conditions still very good for football. Hasn't really changed at all in the last hour. Slight breeze swirling, but as I said, I don't think it's going to favour either end. It's picked up a little more in the last few moments, but nothing significant. Crowd, I'd say, is probably on the smaller side. The Ponting stand pretty well occupied by Kangaroos faithful, but a lot of empty seats in the Boone stand. So I think they probably would have been hoping for a few more through the door here, and probably might just impact a little bit the treatment of Horn Francis that you guys have been talking about.
Yeah, I think Horn Francis might be quietly pleased with the turnout here at Bellerive this afternoon. And as we cast our eye across the ground, we can see the number 18 Port Adelaide jersey standing in the middle of the ground. So a chance to get right amongst the action very, very early. Just about all set to go here at Bellerive. Players making their way out to their positions. Umpires in position. Crowd draws breath, and the umpire stands ready to go with the footy in the middle of the ground. Hugh Greenwood starting in the midfield, straight in for Ben Cunnington. The Hobart local for North Melbourne, Jai Simpkin and Luke Davies-Uniacke in there, as well as Bryn Teakle and Todd Goldstein square off in the ruck. The ball is raised, and Michael Maney will take us away for Grandstand AFL. The first bounce from Bellerive.
The two 18s are pushing and shoving Greenwood and Horn Francis already. So good bounce by the umpire. Nice to see it's not been recalled. Davies-Uniacke came through. Simpkin tried to give it back by hand to Davies-Uniacke. In he goes again, tracking the football. Handball over the top. Teakle couldn't get it through. And Farrell, in fact it's Wines, who's going to win a free kick for Port Adelaide. He's still in the centre square, so Wines will kick it long, inside 50. Who can take a mark? Finlayson! Almost. Here's McEntee, got the handball looking for Powell Pepper. Ball just flicks away. Surely that's a free kick. It was a little high on Curtis Taylor, but the umpire says, I'll ball it up. It's in front of the old stand over the other side near the big booming light tower.
Yeah, right half forward for Port Adelaide, who made the first foray forward this afternoon. Nobody won the ruck, Tam. In fact, there was a push out, and it'll go Port Adelaide's way. A free kick to Teakle. Goldstein stands the mark. Thought about playing on immediately by hand. Dumps it inside 50. Eventually looking for Powell Pepper, who got to the front and took, well, what was largely an uncontested mark in the end. And he'll kick for goal from a reasonably tight angle, but only 35 metres out.
That's that forward we're talking about. No Dixon down there, so you need someone to stand up, and the unlikely one really in the air to see Powell Pepper take a mark that he's not renowned for taking those, not so much a pack mark, but taking a mark that comes inside the 50 with no one else there.
So Powell Pepper approaches, leans back on the kick, sends it on its way, and he pops it through for Port Adelaide's first. And Port are on the board within the first minute of this game. They're one straight 6 to kick us off at Bellerive. North Melbourne yet to score. Grandstand AFL, Mick Malthouse.
Well, I was going to go to the stat sheet and see how many possessions Port have already had, but we don't have them up here, so I'm just going to guess it and say, well, they'll be miles in front at the moment. And when I say miles in front, we only just started the game, but they've controlled the ball so far. Interesting enough, the free kick come against Goldstein. I'm just wondering whether he committed the error or someone else, because for the life of me, I can't see how that contest resulted in Goldstein giving away a free kick. But nonetheless, North Melbourne's defence there was shown to be inadequate. Just did not go near Powell Pepper, and he took an easy mark.
One straight. Port Adelaide, huge leap by Teakle. Couldn't quite get there. No score to North Melbourne. Butters on hands and knees. In goes Horn Francis. First real contest, and there's the first lot of boos for Horn Francis. And you get a ball up. Still in the centre square, slightly near the grandstand wing, broadcast side. Picked up and booted away by Davies-Uniacke. It's a high wobbling ball. Zerha's there. Bergman wants the line, got tackled. No free kick. Zerha grabbed it, dropped it. Mackenzie's got him. Little quick handball comes out. A lot of players around this football. Picked up by Tucker. Another little handball back to Simpkin. Simpkin kicks to the pocket, but Farrell is there and takes the mark on his defensive 50.
Yeah, good mark too, under pressure.
Farrell at left half back squeezes a short ball to Butters, who plays on immediately by hand to Burton as they switch across the ground here. Port Adelaide. Bonner marks on the far wing. Short ball is good as they progress the footy to Finlayson. Little short ball looking for Houston was no good as Stevenson broke it up, and North Melbourne come away with it here. Chain of handballs through the middle. Bailey Scott put his teammate Hugh Greenwood under immense pressure. He was wrapped up in the tackle. We're in the middle of Bellerive, and we'll have a ball up just forward of centre for Port Adelaide.
Goldstein racing through was Horn Francis, who just couldn't take that ball from the tap down.
He's electric, isn't he? That movement there, that was nothing to flat out in 2 metres.
He was right onto it. No one can get it. Big pack of players. They all dust themselves off, and it'll be another ball up. So Port Adelaide inching it ever so slightly toward their forward 50. It's a true centre-half forward position. Teakle and Goldstein. Teakle did it nicely. Simpkin sharked it. High kick. Bergman's in best position here and should take the mark on his chest. Does, in front of young Drury, who had a good game last week. A little redhead.
No wonder they're after to get him to sign up, because he's been in terrific form.
He's
apparently going to wait till the end of the year, which is danger signs in my book.
No doubt about that. So the mark's been taken by Farrell of Port Adelaide in front of the interchange gates, told to go. We know he's a good kick, but no mark taken. Almost. That was terrific by Core. Now Tucker gets around, ducked the head, got tackled, got rid of it. Now Mackay, just a dump kick out of there. Greenwood with a handball away. Nicely done. Little short chipping kick was by Tucker on his non-preferred Zerha. Kept it in beautifully. Got it to Stevenson. They're away here. Stevenson has a bounce. Has to get rid of it. Run into trouble. Holding the ball.
Well, he's holding the ball for one reason, because he looked up. He had Larkey free, Alir on him, and nothing else. So he tried to break that first tackle. Once that was, he got caught in the first one. The second and third got him.
Bergman laid the tackle. He kicks up the line. Zeeble got hands to it. Couldn't take the mark. North Melbourne come up with it through Perez. He was bumped as he kicked. And here's Bergman again, who marks on the broadcast wing in front of Stevenson.
There's just no space out this side of the ground, so that's why they're looking always in the corridor.
And he'll send it back as they go inside 50 again. Now Port Adelaide off hands Greenwood, who's been in the thick of it early. He's immediately wrapped up by McEntee, and Butters is there as well. We'll have a ball up right on the 50, left half forward for Port Adelaide, who lead 1 straight 6. North Melbourne yet to score. Goldstein took it straight out of the ruck, got it straight on the boot. Alir come across. Big fist over the line in front of the interchange benches. We'll have a boundary throw in. On the broadcast wing, Port Adelaide 1 straight 6. North Melbourne yet to score. 6.5 gone for Grandstand AFL here at Bellerive.
Liam Shields enters the arena. Goldstein, who ragdolled Teakle just a moment ago, drew for the tackle. The umpire folds the arms and says, "Give it to me." It's still on the wing in front of the interchange gates. Jason Horn-Francis taking a spell. Goldstein and Teakle got a bit of it. Shields gets into the action. Simpkin got it to Davies-Uniacke, whose kick won't make forward 50. Up they fly. Zerha had to punch from away. Taylor couldn't collect for North Melbourne, and it trickles out of bounds right half forward. North Melbourne slightly in attack, and Port Adelaide 1 straight 6 lead the Kangaroos, who are yet to score. 7 minutes gone on Grandstand AFL.
Boundary throw in right half forward for North Melbourne. In it comes. Rucks go at it. Goldstein won it down decisively, but it was straight to Drew, who got it off to Butters. Back to Teakle now. He almost missed his boot with the kick, but it'll work out well here. Port Adelaide come away with it. Houston gave it to Boak. Tried to arch the back. Couldn't evade Flynn Perez. Ball spills free in the tackle. Hacked forward by Curtis. Fell to Alir at centre-half back for the power. Away it comes now through Travis Boak, who got it to left half forward where Rosie flew, couldn't bring it down. Drew on hands and knees, couldn't gather. Shees will come flashing through. Quick hands now. Shields for North Melbourne. Davies-Uniacke broke the Houston tackle. Stumbled as he handballed. Chance now for North Melbourne inside 50. Tumbler from Bailey Scott. Zerha got to the back, tracks it towards the goals. It'll elude him, and the boundary line wins out. We will have a boundary throw in. Deep in attack for North Melbourne in the right forward pocket. Port Adelaide 1 straight 6. North Melbourne yet to score. 8 minutes gone.
Good agricultural by Scott. An end-for-ender old punt kick. Goldstein knocked it down. Rosie played for the free kick. Houston's there. Marnie grabbed the foot. He got dumped. Picked up here by Curtis. He's caught with the ball. No, got the handball away. Shields got a terrible bounce. In goes McKenzie. Tried to paddle away to Bergman, who might have got a free kick for high. He's trapped underneath. and it's about 45 metres out from North Melbourne's goal on the half-forward flank. And North looking for their first score.
Came down to Mackenzie. He was barreled through by Shields. In fact, it was Zerha. That's all wrapped up.
Zerha, he just doesn't know any other way by just barging through. A bit dangerous there, though. You're on the ground, another player's next to you. You're going to get him in the head.
Teakle took it out of the ruck off the bounce. Handball to nobody in particular. Marnie got there first. Immediately racked up by Bergman. We'll have another stoppage just inside the forward 50. Right half forward for North Melbourne. Yet to score here, the Roos. Up it goes. Teakle and Goldstein. Goldstein decisively. Mackenzie went through on hands and knees. Might have got one high. Davies Uniacke picked off the handball. Thought about the shot on goal, but the centering kick was even better. And he found Larkey diving and taking a chest mark. He'll kick for North Melbourne's first. 40 metres out. Ever so slight angle.
They're doing well around the packs, North Melbourne. Goldstein's already established himself as the premier ruckman there out of the two so far. There's nothing wrong with Teakle, but you are against a player who's played a lot of footy.
So Nick Larkey to get North Melbourne on the board. Liked it immediately off the boot, raises the finger to the sky, and the North Melbourne faithful cheer it through. The Roos have their first. Port Adelaide 1 straight 6. North Melbourne 1 straight 6. 10 minutes gone. First term for Grandstand AFL, Mick Malthouse.
That's his 20th goal for the season. He started very, very well. He had some really flat spots. But I reckon he was carrying an injury there for a while. I watched a couple of North Melbourne games, and he just seemed to be carrying his leg for a while. He stayed out there, and full credit to him, but that was a good lead into the open spaces. And there's not a lot of space here at this ground. For those that haven't been here, the wings are very narrow. Pockets are, well, I'd say narrow as well. But he found space running away from the ball, and Alira backed off him. In fact, actually, might have been Mackenzie, but one of their players backed off him, and of course, it just left space in front of him to take a nice mark and kick a goal.
Nice poise by Davies Uniacke to find him on the left too. So from the bounce, in comes Horn Francis. He's got the obligatory boos and then the follow-up boos. So we've established that that's going to happen for most of the day. And it's got a bit of sound about it too for the crowd we've got here. Goldstein, as the ball is balled up. Bonner, his half-distance kick. Sheasel couldn't take it. Boak was also there. McDonald did nicely. It's a funny old right footer on his non-preferred. No one can take the mark. Houston was there. It's centre half forward. North Melbourne in attack. Marnie is caught by Williams and co. And it will be another ball up. We've gone 11 and a half minutes. 1 goal straight each, North Melbourne and Port Adelaide.
Ball up top of the 50. Skull at it decisively. One down. Farrell got first hands out to Drew, who gave it to Houston. To right half forward now go the power. Ollie Lord was the target, had Zeeble to contend with. There's a free kick here. It'll go Lord's way against Zeeble. He grabbed him on the arm in the contest. And Ollie Lord.
That's a good matchup for Zeeble, because the young fella's not going to dominate anything, so Zeeble can then play off him.
Left half forward, 65 metres out, puts it to the top of the square. Fist came across from Greenwood towards the boundary that spills out. We'll have a boundary throw in the left forward pocket for Port Adelaide. We're all locked up. 1 straight 6 apiece. 12 and a half gone in this first term. North Melbourne and Port Adelaide, their first trip to Hobart this season. The Kangaroos, in it comes. Finlayson does the ruck work. Fell straight down to Davies Uniacke, who slapped it onto the boot towards the wing. Tackle was laid. Bergman got the handball away. Now it's out to Burton, who sends Port Adelaide inside 50 again. Over the top, Lord. Strong hands. He was too deep. He led Zeeble to the footy, and he was simply too tall.
I take it back. That's a very good mark. Zeeble was with him. I think they've identified him as a young player and probably the 6th forward, so that Zeeble can actually sit off him. But when the ball comes in that quick, you have to be on your man. And not saying Zeeble wasn't, but he's just big and strong.
Into the team for Charlie Dixon. He'll kick from right on 50. He sends it high. It's not going to be a goal as it settles at the top of where the fist eventually came from Goldstein. It's knocked over for a minus score. Port Adelaide take a minor lead. 1-1-7 Port Adelaide lead North Melbourne 1 straight 6. 13 and a half gone for Grandstand AFL.
Sheasel does the kicking out duties, but he's turned it straight over and kicked it straight to Mackenzie, who's drifted up. Drury was the man pushing up, so Mackenzie's followed him through. Bergman's in a bit of space just in front of us here on the broadcast wing. Mackenzie decides to sit it up, hoping for a big mark, but all they'll get is an uncontested Goldstein grab. They can't afford to keep going that way. Goldstein's kick is interrupted beautifully by Drew. Drew hooks it back to the pocket. Pepper, one grab, couldn't take it. And McEntee tried to get through, and he's tagged. And it'll be a free kick to North Melbourne, and they get out of trouble. And the free kick will go to Zeeble, and it might be 50, is it? Let's have a look.
Or
has it been reversed? So there's a bit of a scuffle at centre half forward, and this has been reversed, and McEntee's going to have a shot from goal from about 15 metres out directly in front. So we're desperate for it. Ollie Lord is nodding and saying, good decision. McEntee goes back and says, thanks very much. I'll kick Port Adelaide's second goal, 2 straight 12. And the Kangaroos 1 straight 6. As we all shake our head and have a look for the replay, we don't know what's happened, but Port have got a second goal on the board, almost 15 minutes gone on Grandstand AFL here at Bellreeve.
Well, there's no doubt it come from an undisciplined act. There's absolutely no, it's a certainty about that. Okay, so there's a free kick. Is it holding the ball in the back? No, there's a
Core.
Yep. Core's just he may have a little trip to the tribunal on Monday, but it's the jumper punch. It's then your hand slips off the jumper and you throw your fist. There's nothing really bad about it except it's undisciplined. It's a goal that was unnecessary by against North Melbourne.
Back in the middle we go. It's Griffin Logue doing the ruck work for North Melbourne, interestingly. Horn Francis fed out a handball. It was gathered by Rosie, who fed it off to Burton, who was running past. Thumps it towards right half forward for Port Adelaide. Knocked on cleverly by Zach Butters. It was taken by Francis Evans, and he was wrapped up in a big tackle. We'll have a ball up at right half forward for Port Adelaide, who lead here at Bellreeve. Knocked down by Finlayson. Pepper tracks it, can't gather it. It gets over the boundary line eventually as Sheasel takes it over. So an early gift for Port Adelaide, and it was after a really strong tackle from Jack Zeeble to win a holding the ball free kick. So Logue once again does the ruck work for North Melbourne. The handball missed the mark. Wines can't bring it under his spell, and it'll go over the boundary line for another ball in.
It's a genuine right cross too from Core.
Yeah, too right it was. Yeah.
We're at right half forward. Port Adelaide's attacking half. And it comes again. Logue and Finlayson. Finlayson gets rid of Logue, takes it and enters 50 for Port Adelaide. Pack flies. Marshall couldn't take the mark. Spills down to Curtis Taylor, who got the handball off to Perez. Dump kick outside of defensive 50. He missed the target in Logue, and will spill out for another boundary throw in right in front of the hill. It's still at half forward for Port Adelaide.
Yeah, this is not good for Port. Someone's dead in the goal in the 50-metre line. Now, I think it looks like Marshall, and that's a tall, someone that they can't afford to see come off the ground.
It's almost coming that way from the throw-in. Taken by Simpkin. Got away to Shields by hand. He looks for Drury. Drury steps in and out and then gets to Greenwood. Then feeds it back by hand to Logue. Now it goes out wide, and it was taken there by Miller Bergman. And now Shields. Shields goes inside 50. Big thump away by Mackenzie. Drew, quick hands, Butters. Gee, that was a marginal handball. Now another handball. Goes to Bonner, who looks for Lord. He can't take it, so it's at half back for Port Adelaide. Picked up and just handballed away. Might have been a free kick to Zeeble there. He's calling for it. He said, well, hang on. I got rid of it. I got tackled. Why isn't that a free kick to me? It rolls out of play. Boundary throw in. 18 minutes gone, first quarter. Port Adelaide 2 straight 12, and the Kangaroos 1 straight 6.
Right in front of the interchange benches. Logue into the ruck again for North Melbourne. Wins it down. It came to Simpkin from Greenwood. Back to Davies Uniacke. He's hassled over the line. Couldn't get a disposal away. And we'll have another ball in.
Yeah, it's a tight ground, isn't it? There's no room between the boundary and the centre square line. So all the action is played within 5 or 6 metres or 10 metres. in front of the boundary, really.
Logue tried to palm it down to Tucker, missed him. It scrambles forward, met solidly by Core, and he's met solidly by McEntee. Dispossesses him, and it spills out of bounds right in front of our broadcast position. Another boundary throw in.
Simpkins, Davies, Uniac, the highest position getting players at the moment, which is not surprising. They are really doing a good job at the stoppages and clearances.
Lowe takes it out of the ruck, missed Davies Uniac with the handball. On hands and knees was Wines. Greenwood went in as well, as did Pau Pepper, but it's all wrapped up. There's 3 Bulls going at it. As we have another stoppage right in front of our broadcast position.
Scoreboard's wrong too, Chris. It's 2-1-13 to 1 straight 6. So there was a rush behind to Port. So they'll clear that up at quarter time. From the boundary throw in, Zurha shrugs 1, then 2. Drury, lovely hands to Greenwood. And Greenwood kick is terrific to Curtis. Now Curtis, that's a real worm burner. But it works okay to Marnie, who just gets the handball away looking for Stevenson. Missed his target. Stevenson close to the line, just hassled out of it by Mackenzie. That was terrific play. And Jonas is there, sees it out of play. The Curtis kick, not the best, but it worked out okay. But it is left half forward, North Melbourne in attack, kicking to the southern end of Bellerive Oval. The boundary throw in. Lowe puts his hand up and says, I'm in for the ruck, and so too Teakle, but he's not going to get there. And Logue tries to take it out of the ruck, can't do. Picked up by Shields, jammed it on the boot. Good mark, Mackenzie, not paid, or was it? Maybe a chopping of the arms happened, but Mackenzie's got it in the back pocket for Port Adelaide.
Yeah, North have had more possessions, but it's 21 kicks and 24 and 34 hand passes. The ratio's not quite correct. You end up. Maybe it's because of the pressure of Port Adelaide, I'm not sure, but certainly you need to kick the football on this ground to get it inside the front 50.
North Melbourne have come up with the footy here in the middle of the ground, and the short chipping ball from Davies Uniac was a beauty to Jack Marnie, who is going to have a shot on goal. He'll kick from maybe just inside 50. In fact, he's handed it off to Zeeble around the back, who receives the handball, sends it all the way to the line. Aliir saves the day and knocks it over for a minor score. Wasn't a bad attempt, though, from Jack Zeeble.
Yeah, very poor by Port, though, not to realise that. I've just been watching the warm-up, watching Zeeble actually do that at pre-match.
Chopped off here from the kick in by Larkey, who spins in and out of trouble. Handball to the shoelaces of Stevenson. Got it on the boot, and he's kicked a goal. Well, a goal out of nothing for North Melbourne. They forced the turnover off the kick-in. Larkey with some wonderful work to get it to Stevenson, and the finish was just as good. North Melbourne 2-1-13, Port Adelaide 2-1-13, 21 and a half gone first term for Grandstand AFL. Nick Malthouse.
Well, you pay a penalty. Ryan Burton kicked the ball in, and the bloke on the mark, let's face it, the bloke on the mark in Australian rules football from a kick in, Mars will be standing on Mars because they give him that much room, but no, he kicks it into him. Got his hand to it, goes over the top, creates a loose football. Larkey gets involved. Stevenson has picked up his game in the last few weeks compared to what he was when he first went to North Melbourne, and was able to. He's a very skillful player and managed to kick a goal. But it's just a straight turnover. Players on the mark are generally about 15 metres back from the line.
2-1-13 apiece as we tick into 22 minutes. Port out of the centre. Wines got a handball to Drew and gave it back. Houston. Now a handball to Butters. Had someone on short. Now he goes to Horn Francis, who can't take the mark. Call was there. Zeeble, hurried kick. It's high. Drew at the back. Did some pushing and eventually was paid the mark. The umpire was right on the spot. And I reckon that was a genuine push in the back.
Once you do a double take, they've gone right off this.
Drew spears it in. Pau Pepper takes the mark. Not sure it was meant for Pau Pepper, but it'll be a 50-metre penalty.
I don't know why.
It was meant for Marshall, and Pau Pepper got in the gap, and now it's a 50. Mick, you'll have to have a look at the replay.
Well, I'll explain it to those that are listening. The ball went in. It did go like a rocket. Pau Pepper jumped up, took the mark. Now, I'm not watching this, so I'm just having a guess on this now. He's going to kick the goal, which he has done, because no one's on his mark. He's taken the mark, but as he took the mark, it was punched out of his hands. Now, to me, it may have stuck in his hands a split second. And the umpire has deemed, the way I'm reading it, he's deemed that it was already a mark, and it was a late play. I'll disagree with that and say that the defender got rid of the football as the ball was coming out of Powell Pepper's hands. Now, there's no guarantee for that player's mind that the ball was actually marked. There was no whistle.
Andrew Cooling's on the boundary.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on Todd Marshall. The trainers have been out to him 3 times since he was down on the ground. He's shooed them away every single time. They seem a little bit worried, but he's determined to play on.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that as things progress. Port Adelaide take the advantage, though. A goal to the good, 3-1-19, Port Adelaide. North Melbourne 2-1-13. Back in the middle we go. Tickle and Goldstein go at it. They wrestle after the footy. Goldstein comes up with it. Got the handball off to Curtis Taylor, who tumbles one forward for North Melbourne. Burton just knocked it into the path of a teammate, but the handball was broken up. Eventually, McKenzie had to lay a big tackle on Drury. And we'll have a ball up 40 metres out from North Melbourne's goal. So look to get one back. Zerha read it best off the tap. Was he taken high as he tried to barge through?
Oh, yeah.
He might have been, yes. So a free kick here to Cam Zerha.
Well, that just shows you take the ball hard. I'm not convinced it was around his neck, but if you attack the ball hard, and like he can, and like he does, you're going to draw a free kick if there's one there. So, Michael, you'll let me know whether he did or not. No, I just thought it's a good tackle.
Haven't seen anything yet, Mick.
Waiting the replay, but he certainly barreled in and got low and earned a free kick for his efforts. He's lining up for his first, directly in front, 45 metres out from goal. Ambles on in, sends it on its way. Never in doubt. North Melbourne strike back. They have a third. And we're all locked up once again. 3-1-19 apiece here at Bellerive. 25 and a half gone in this first term for Grandstand AFL. Mick Malthouse.
Well, I'm just going to watch the replay on this. It's,
It's Jonas coming through.
Jonas come through. It's like a shoulder charge at rugby. I'd say that's the best. Probably copped him a bit high. May have copped him a bit high. Benefit it out to the player who attacked the football. Got no worries about that. If there's going to be indecision, then call it play on. But I guess he was tackled from behind and in front and wins it. But there's no doubt that when you attack the ball like that, you're going to open up all sorts of possibilities, which he has, and kicked a very, very nice goal.
26 minutes gone, 3-1-19 apiece at Bellerive. Mick Malthouse, Chris Robon with me, Andrew Cooling on the boundary, taken by Goldstein out of the centre. High ball, Williams, oh, lovely mark. Just held his opponent off in Marnie and took the juggling mark at half back on the outer side, just on his defensive 50, Dylan Williams, who Ken Hinkley spoke of glowingly pre-match. Williams goes to a pack. Tickle and Goldstein, beautifully read by Boak, just knew his way around that particular piece of play. Here's a chance for Farrell. Farrell kicks inside 50, all North Melbourne. Marshall couldn't take the mark, came from nowhere. McEntee, little handball away to Butters. Butters, a little chip kick, will be okay, and finds Bonner. Bonner thought about playing on, still is. He's right on the paint of 50, a kick from 47. But he's right in front of us, but good lowering of the eyes. And Bonner with the opportunity.
I don't think he's not backing himself at the moment. His eyes are darting everywhere. He's only 48 metres out, perhaps.
It's a good-looking kick from Bonner. It's working its way round, but it's just missed to the near side. So Port Adelaide regain the lead. They're 3-2-20. North 3-1-19. 27 minutes gone. First term.
I don't think he backed himself. I reckon... Like, it only missed by half a metre. Just needed to show a bit more positivity. He knocks that over.
Zeeble played on by hand out of full back, gave it to Luke McDonald, who dumped it up the line. Contested ball on the wing now, gathered by Rosie, who misspoke with the handball. Simpkin went in after it, fed Greenwood, who released Flynn Perez. He goes towards right half forward now for North Melbourne. Larkey got rid of Aaliyah, and there's a free kick here. It'll go the way of Larkey.
No, Reno played the mark.
Just slipped Aaliyah there, just at the last moment.
Yeah, good body work. Really good body work.
So Larkey has been paid the mark, and he'll maybe fancy himself here from just on 50, 45-degree angle in front of the North Melbourne faithful.
He doesn't waste energy. He just gets them over the line when he kicks.
Kicks from just inside the paint, but this one was always a little skinny, and it misses to the near side. A minor score for North Melbourne. They're all tied up, 3-2-20 apiece. Deep into the first term here at Bellerive for Grandstand AFL.
Just missed to the squeezed and almost shaved the post there, Larkey. 3-2-20 apiece. Long kick. Lord is in the middle of that for Port Adelaide. Ball just flicks out now. Away they go. Nicely done by Rosie. You haven't called Rosie much, but that's a good kick. Finds Finlayson. So Porter really on the move here. Boak takes the mark just outside his attacking 50. And will he go the long dump kick or will he lower the eyes? Who's going to give him something? Lord's getting back. And tracking him is Mackay. And then what Boak does is kick him the man of the mark, which wasn't too flash. A little handball by Burton. Back to Boak. Now he gets some elevation on the kick. And Marshall's trying to get in amongst this. In fact, it's Lord. Ball just spills out. Taken by Drew. Intercept was nicely done by Taylor. Now picked up by Goldstein, who kicks out wide. Looking for Logue. And Logue takes the mark half back.
Let's go to Andrew Cooling on the boundary.
Injury concerns for both sides here. Todd Marshall finally did get taken off the ground. He's gone straight down the race with a doctor probably getting looked at a concussion there. North Melbourne too have got an issue with Darcy Tucker getting a leg looked at. At the moment, Phoenix Spice of the sub is being warmed up.
Butters now for Port Adelaide on the far wing, shares it with Drew, who gave it to Houston off the instep as he tumbled one inside 50. It might work out here for the Power though. Swooped upon by Bergman, flying shot at goals missing. In fact, it was Big Teakle coming on through and missing. It's back into play here. North Melbourne marked by Davies Uniacke on the defensive 50.
Davies Uniacke. So it's been a pretty long quarter. It's a tick into 30 minutes in this first term. So McDonald has it in front of the Tasmanian sign on the outer side. Goes down the line. No one can mark it. Flicks over the back. Nicely done by Logue. Just drew a man. So Shields will go inside 50. Looking for Larkey. Larkey can't take the mark. The ball just might go through for a behind. A big crash. And it's bumped into the behind post. It'll be a ball in.
Yeah, that was a big hit. Trying to work out who was down there.
Jade Stevenson
right down there, bowled over. Yeah.
So left forward pocket, North Melbourne in attack, kicking toward the David Boone stand. Goldstein takes it out of the ruck and then just kicks it out of bounds on the full. And a beautiful mark by the Port supporter out there and showing the ball to all and sundry and throws it back to Trent McKenzie. So McKenzie will relieve the pressure. 3-2-20 North. Port Adelaide 3-3-21. 31 minutes gone the first term.
It's a long quarter, as you say, for 6 goals. I mean, I guess there's been a few boundary throw-ins, isn't there?
So up the wing it goes. Good defensive mark taken by Goldstein on the outer wing. Gets things moving immediately. Sends North Melbourne inside 50, but returning the favour was Trent McKenzie, who took a solid defensive mark of his own for Port Adelaide. And there is the quarter-time siren where Port Adelaide will take a narrow lead into the second term. 3-3-21 Port. They lead North Melbourne 3-20. And what was a slugfest of an opening term, Mick Malthouse.
Well, it was. I just have this feeling that Port can't get their game going because of the size of the ground, and this is no criticism of the ground. Let me tell you that for start off, because we go to the Sydney Crew Ground, MCG, you go to down the Cats Stadium. They're all different lengths and sizes and widths. This is an odd width. Make no mistake about it. In fact, I'm looking at the ground now, and I'm looking at the centre square, and I can see another centre square that's underneath it that's going a slightly different direction. So it tells you a lot about the ground and where the goalposts are and that sort of stuff. So it does take a little bit of time to get used to this ground. Port love a bit of space. They play hard football. They love space. Can't find space. Certainly can't find space in front of us. And we're on the, what would you say, this is what, the south side,
the western side of the ground?
Western side of the ground. So okay, there's no space here. On the eastern side of the ground, there seems to be a lot of space, but the ball is not going out there. Predictably, I thought that Goldstein was controlling the ruck, not necessarily at ground level. As I say, I'm a bit devoid of stats, but I'll just call it the way I see it more so. I reckon that they'll be pretty even as far as the number of stats go, but I still think North Melbourne are probably over hand passing a bit much. Look, they're only a point down, so there's nothing wrong with the way they're playing. Larkey's certainly causing some hassle up the top end. If Marshall can't come back on the ground, that's another tool that Port can't play, and they're going to have to use the ball differently again coming into that forward line. But right now, even competition, predictably even competition, sharing the stats around.
Some goal kickers. Sam Powell-Pepper has 2 for Port Adelaide. Jed McEntee has their other goal. Nick Larkey, Jaden Stevenson and Cam Zerhart with singles for North Melbourne. We'll take a short break from here at Bellerive, where Port Adelaide lead North Melbourne 3-3-21 to 3-2-20. Back on the other side of this.
I grew up in one of the last intact wild places left on the planet.
Discover the wonder of Ningaloo through the eyes of celebrated Australian author Tim Winton.
Its custodians call it Ningaloo.
Ningaloo.
This is the story of a World Heritage treasure. It's one of those living miracles that keeps hope alive.
Ningaloo.
Ningaloo.
Starts Tuesday, May 16 on ABC TV and streaming on ABC iView. Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Free kick to Teakle. Dumps it inside 50, eventually looking for Powell-Pepper, who got to the front and took, well, what was largely an uncontested mark in the end, and he'll kick for goal from a reasonably tight angle. Approaches, leans back on the kick, sends it on its way, and he pops it through for Port Adelaide's first. Davies Uniacke picked off the handball, thought about the shot on goal, but the centering kick was even better, and he found Larkey diving. So Nick Larkey to get North Melbourne on the board, liked it immediately off the boot, raises the finger to the sky.
McEntee tried to get through, and he's tagged, and it'll be a free kick. McEntee goes back and says, thanks very much.
Chopped off here from the kick in by Larkey, who spins in and out of trouble. Handball to the shoelaces of Stevenson, got it on the boot, and he's kicked a goal. Zerha read it best off the tap. Was he taken high as he tried to barge through?
Oh, yeah.
He might have been, yes. So a free kick here to Cam Zerha. Ambles on in, sends it on its way. Never in doubt. North Melbourne strike back. They have a third.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Port Adelaide 3-3-21 lead North Melbourne 3-2-20 after one quarter here at Bellerive. Some injury concerns for both teams, but it has been a low-scoring and bruising encounter so far in this game. There's one other game being played at the moment in Sydney, 23 and a half gone at the SCG, where Sydney is playing Fremantle, when it is the Dockers who hold a 5-point lead, 37 plays 32. So an interesting encounter unfolding in Sydney. Michael Maney alongside me in commentary, and Mick Malthouse, our expert. What are you hoping to see ahead of this second term, Mick?
Well, I'd just like to see... well, the game itself's a very interesting game. I'm just going through some general stats, and there's absolutely nothing in it. 90 possessions, North Melbourne to 81. Again, I do emphasise, I just think that North may be hand passing a bit, 44 kicks to 46 hand passes. Not that Port have much difference, 43 to 38. Inside 50 is interesting. It's 10 to 14 Port's favour. I think North Melbourne defended pretty well. As I said earlier before the game started, I thought Goldstein was going to be a big player in this, and he has been a big player. He's certainly one that's getting the ball around the ground. I think he's had, from memory, I'm just looking here what I've written down, he's had 9 possessions. That's a lot of possessions. There'll be a few clearances in that as well. North are holding up well at the stoppages, and there's been a lot of stoppages. So I think if Port are going to supposedly get away, they're going to have to improve on their stoppage work.
Some news from ground level from Andrew Cooling.
Yeah, North Melbourne have activated the sub during the quarter-time break. Phoenix Spicer into the contest. Darcy Tucker's day is over. A hamstring injury will rule him out.
Any update on Todd Marshall?
He's getting checked out for concussion. He's down the race. No sub yet.
Underway in the second term, Michael Maney with the first bounce.
Had the ball up, and now we'll have the obligatory stoppage after that. So no secondary ball up. Port Adelaide by a point. As we move into this second term, sprightly first term, Teakle from the ball up. Horn Francis just ran straight past it, but his closing speed was amazing. His tackle on Simpkin was a little high, just a brush of the ear, really. And the crowd love that because Horn Francis has given away a free kick. Now he goes to McDonald. McDonald with the instep, not the best of kicks. In comes Rosie. Only 5 possessions the first term, taken by Bergman. That's a nice kick, finds McEntee. He wants to go on with play. He does. That's a terrific kick. And the mark's been taken by Finlayson, and he's going to have to do some work up forward, Mick, because Todd Marshall may be out of the game.
Well, that's interesting. Yes, and we thought so some time ago. We don't understand why Marshall didn't come off earlier. But that's a result of quick, longer play, which has been absent from both clubs at the moment. You've got to cover this ground, get the ball inside 50 quickly before players get back.
Here's Finlayson, been a goal kicker for them, 11-7 this year. Spears it through for a goal. So Port get the early goal in the second term. Finlayson gets his first of the afternoon, and Port Adelaide move to 4 goals, 3-27 to North Melbourne 3-20.
Yeah, and look, it was a very good mark, a great finish. He's a beautiful kick, beautiful left foot kick. But the emphasis here, if coaches have a chance without runners going through the course of the game these days, you've got to look at each break. Now, if the instructions haven't come from Port, we've got to clear the muck. There's a lot of scrappiness in this game so far, and because it's the ground size and the tightness of the competition, then you've got to get the ball moving quickly so that the opposition can't get players in behind you, and it makes it one-on-one football. Then anything can happen, as it did just then. It's the only way to go on this ground.
Back in the middle, Teakle won it down, but Goldstein got the first possession out to Simpkin, who fed Davies Uniacke. He has a look inside 50, and that's where he goes. Zerha couldn't get rid of McKenzie, but paddled it to his own advantage and won a handball up to Drury. He couldn't bring it under his spell. He's met firmly by a Kane Farrell tackle. In fact, he's been pinged for holding the ball. Umpire said he dragged it in, and Farrell pinned it to his chest and has been rewarded.
Yeah, I'll go along with that one, because he picked it up and then made really little effort to get rid of it. And he, rightfully so, went.
Farrell onto that trusty left boot, sends Port Adelaide forward. We're in the middle of the ground now. Contested ball as bodies converge. Ollie Wines is there, as is Harry Sheasel. He emerges from the bottom of the pack.
That kick from Port, again, long kick.
Goldstein won it down off the stoppage. Wines can't bring it under his spell. Did he get one in the back? Umpire said no. It's all wrapped up. Umpire lurks. There was some thought that it may have been holding the ball for a moment.
Is there a racetrack around? Because he could be on the first race, honestly. Just rode him into the ground.
Big tackle laid by Horn Francis on Davies Uniacke, and another ball up. This will be the third in a row.
You're under pressure to clear this, Chris, you know that.
Umpire Nathan Williamson. Up it goes. Goldstein tries to do me a favour and drag it out. Shields gets in there as well. Horn Francis. It's all wrapped up. Michael Maney, your turn.
Interesting one, Mick, about the
Where's that free kick come from?
Well, it's a free kick going to Shields. Keep an eye on that, Mick, but Simpkins kicked it inside 50. Jonas could have taken the mark, went for the punch, and then fumbled, and now the ball goes out of play. Farrell just gave it a little nudge. Now, he's going to be pinged for deliberate.
Yeah, good decision. The umpire in the middle of the ground couldn't get that, but that's where the fourth umpire can make a difference, and he got it right.
Taylor with a free kick, looking for Larkey. Alir with a big thump away. Here's Rosie, just thread his way through to Houston. Williams about to get nailed by Curtis. Got the kick away. Wide outside half-back. Powell Pepper crashes through with strength. Got it to Bonner. Bonner just threw it on his left boot. Bouncing ball. Core. And Finlayson. Core did pretty well there to get the ball out of play. It's on the wing outer side. We've gone 4.5 minutes in the second term. Port Adelaide 4-3, 27. League North 3-2-20. Chris Rowbottom and Mick Malthouse here, and Andrew Cooling on the boundary at Bellerive.
Right in front of the hill. Boundary throw in. Goldstein won it down directly into the path of Rosie. Left foot ball forward. It was a good defensive marketing back by Zeeble, who marks right on defensive 50 for North Melbourne. Gets up a little gingerly and just scans what he has ahead. Short ball is good to Bailey Scott at right half back. Takes 5 metres and progresses things up the wing in the Goldstein direction. Alir over the top. Eventually run out of bounds by Riley Bonner. Still in front of the hill. Port Adelaide lead by 7 points. 4-3-27 Port. North Melbourne 3-2-20. Early stages of the second term here in Hobart. And it comes again, Teakle and Goldstein. Goldstein won the tap. Horn Francis was just shoved out of the way by Davies Uniacke, who won the footy. Put it out in front of Curtis. Over the top now to Phoenix Spicer. The excitement machine, the super sub. He can't get it to go. The shot on goal just missing, clipping the coast on the way past. A minor score for North Melbourne.
Wow, has he got some speed? Don't you just love it? Tucks the ball under the arm and just exploded with his speed.
That's why Tucker's sitting on the pine, and they might have just had to get a little bit more speed on the game as Mackenzie drives it long. Goldstein dropped the mark. Pal Pepper, little handball away to Horn Francis, who kicked with his right boot, not the left. Finlayson just turns them all around on that left boot and then chips in looking for Boak. He's right on the boundary line. Boak stops, props, has to try and get around. Got it back to Pal Pepper. He's caught by Sheasel. Umpire on the blind side. No free kick. Ball goes out on the full. And Port Adelaide will go back inside their forward 50. 4-3-27 Port. North Melbourne 3-3-21. So they're just waiting now for the ball to go back to Travis Boak. So he's right on 50, hard up against the boundary line in front of the big light tower there. So this will take one of his best kicks, although we do see quite a number of goals kicked from here. It's not quite as tight as some grounds. Here's Travis Boak. Sits it up. It floats. It floats through. It's a goal. Travis Boak gets his first. And Port Adelaide get number 5. They move to 5-3-33. North Melbourne 3-3-21. We've gone 7 minutes in the second term. Mick Malthouse.
I'm just seeing a slightly different approach with Port at the moment. The ball has been kicked a lot longer. I know that ball there come from a turnover, bit of pressure on the back line. Ball kicked out of bounds on the full by North Melbourne. But the depth of kicking from the half back line now and through the corridor and through the centre into the forward line is a lot more direct, longer. Now, I'm only assuming that Ken Hinkley would have suggested that, only because Port's going to be getting caught up in a lot of the tangle that was happening through the 250 metre lines. That has broken up the fact that now North can't get all their numbers back in time to help their defenders. So it has worked. North Melbourne should work on the same principle because they've got a distinct advantage in the air, North Melbourne.
Goldstein won it down, but Rosie emerged with it for Port Adelaide. High ball now towards right half forward. Nobody able to take the mark. Bergman took it for North Melbourne. It spilled to McEntee. Eventually the kick was scrubbed towards inside 50. Gathered eventually by Butters. The kick was a beauty to Finlayson on the lead. Andrew Cooling's on the boundary with some news.
Port Adelaide have activated the sub. Jackson Mead coming into the game for Todd Marshall, who is cutting a fairly crestfallen figure on the Port Adelaide interchange. Head in his hands. He looks fairly devastated, but the sub's been pulled and Mead is now into the game.
So Jeremy Finlayson lining up right on the boundary, 40 metres out from goal. He's going to kick around the corner on that left boot. Can he screw it back far enough? I think he has. He pumps the fist. Well, he liked it. The umpire is going to have a look at it. Why?
I just don't get this. For the public's point of view, the goal umpire, I don't think the goal umpire has requested that. The goal umpire clearly is going to make a decision. And the central umpire is now running. Surely the goal umpire must be the one that makes the decision. I need an assistance in this. Is that fair to say, or am I looking at it differently?
Looks like it hit the post to me.
It might have just clipped the post on the way down.
Well, yeah, but don't let the goal umpire make that decision.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't make the decision, upstairs is supposed to make the decision. This is where we get a little bit confused, theatrical.
Well, confirmation that it did indeed hit the post.
I'd be interested. Why didn't we let the goal umpire tell us that it did?
Had a goal umpire the other night that almost everything that came his way he referred, so a little bit spooked. Here's Scott, got it back from a teammate and now jams the ball on his boot to this side of the ground. Right in front of the interchange gates, Port Adelaide slightly in defence. Handball by Mackenzie back to Rosie, who shows everyone a clean pair of heels. Goes for Teakle, he can't take the mark. Crumbing front and square was Pal Pepper. Well done by Burton to kick it into the path of Pal Pepper. It won't stay in, or will it? Yes, it does. McIntyre did pretty well to try and get it to a teammate in Mead, who's the activated sub. It's gone small. They're little mosquitoes, aren't they, Port Adelaide at the moment?
Well, they have to, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, so long as the ball moves quickly, you keep the ball basically on the deck coming in.
You'll know when Horne-Francis makes his way on from the bench because you'll hear the boos as you just did then as Mead gathers. Flying shot on goal, bouncing towards the goal square. Burton couldn't bring it under his spell, gathered on hands and knees by Sheasel. Now it's Greenwood who lost his feet. His handball was straight to Zach Butters. Kicks across the face of goal looking for Burton. Eventually picked up by Bonner who rolls it through. So Port Adelaide, through forward pressure, managed to squeeze home a goal off the boot of Bonner, and they extend the lead to 19 points, 6-4-40 Port Adelaide. North Melbourne 3-3-21, yet to score in this quarter, 11 and a half gone. Second term for grandstand AFL Mick Malthouse.
Well, you'd think there's a big wind blowing down the ground. I was going to ask, I can't see any, the trees don't seem to be moving, so I'm suspecting that there's no kicking advantage end, but what has been an advantage is the midfield of Port Adelaide have got on top, totally on top, and I don't think it's through Goldstein's lack of effort in the ruck. I just think that around the ground you're looking at players like Butters, who's really taken over. Horne-Francis getting possessions, William Drew's getting a lot of possessions, and they're just driving the ball deep into the forward line of Port Adelaide.
Port 6-4-40, North 3-3-21. It's 3-1 to a point in this term. We'll go down to Andrew just a moment and just see whether there's any breeze blowing too much to that end. Ball inside 50. Houston got a grab on it, then tried again. Larkey arrived on the scene. It'll be a ball up. Get to Andrew in a second or two. Goldstein knocks it down toward the boundary. Shields is there with Houston, and it rolls out of play. Andrew, anything significant going to the David Boone stand?
No, nothing significant. A slight breeze, but certainly not worth 3 goals. It's not really impacting kicks in particular. It's just Port Adelaide getting on top.
Boundary throw in. Right on the forward 50 for North Melbourne. Is that an inside 50 if a boundary umpire throws it in? Here's Shields. Shields kicks it high to the square. Up they go. Stevenson almost took the mark. In they go hard. Logue can't grab it. Port will try and rush this through. Alier did nicely to escort it through for a rush behind. So North moved to 3-4-22. Port 6-4-40. 13 gone, second term. We're on grandstand AFL at the Bellreeve Oval. Chris Rowbottom.
Just if I could just come in there for 2 seconds, just on Goldstein. He's had 20 hit-outs already. He's been the dominant ruckman, as we suspect. And Simpkin and Uni Lakely are both getting a lot of possessions.
Zerha broke a couple of tackles in the middle of Bellreeve and sends North Melbourne inside 50. Spectacular flight from Alier, couldn't bring it down. Contested ball now. Mead came through, fed it off to Houston. Sends it back up the wing on the outer side. Contested ball, first met by Simpkin. Retreats to Bergman, who spots something he likes out wide. It was Marnie. Tackled as he kicked. Little one inside 50. Met by Williams. He's met by Logue. Fed out the handball. Looking for Farrell. He's edged over the boundary line by Curtis Taylor. We'll have a boundary throw in 40 metres around from the right hand goal post. North Melbourne's attacking zone.
Yeah, Simpkin 14, but it's 3 and 11. And that's significant because they've got to kick the football quicker into their forward line, North Melbourne, to have any sort of impact there.
Zerha won it off the tap kick inside 50. Larkey direction, all juggled the footy. He was given a free kick. So Alier come in over the top a little clumsily. And Larkey getting low drew a free kick for high contact, and he'll kick for goal 35 metres out directly in front.
Plays in front, Larkey.
He plays in front and he plays tall, so you really have to be right on him. Notice Goldstein coming off. He's been fantastic, Goldstein.
1 goal, 1 for the afternoon. Nick Larkey, he liked this one immediately off the boot, and now he has 2. North Melbourne get their first of the second term. And they just close this gap a little bit. Port Adelaide, 6-4-40. North Melbourne 4-4-28, 15 minutes gone, second term for grandstand AFL Mick Malthouse.
Rosie, Butters, Drew have been basically the difference this quarter. Their clearance and stoppage work has been outstanding, albeit the goal scene still on top in the ruck. But the significance of those players getting the football is that they're either feed it off or themselves be able to break through, get the ball running and get it inside the front 50 more times than North Melbourne. And when you get it in there, you get an opportunity to score, even though the fact is that they're a lot smaller down there without Marshall.
Port Adelaide 6-4-40, North 4-4-28. 2 goals to Larkey now. Logue in the ruck against Finlayson, and Logue got it down, and now we'll do some follow-up work. Got a handball to Drury. Oh, that was terrific handball, but it missed the target. Now Williams for Port Adelaide, loops it to Finlayson, who gets it to Wines. Rare touch for Ollie. His kick's overcooked, and it's marked about 45 metres from his defensive goal by Luke McDonald for North Melbourne.
How big does...
McDonald goes out to the wing, and Shields is outnumbered there, and the mark taken by Jackson Mead, who's been busy since he's been on. Little chipping ball finds Houston just off the back end of the defensive square. Now he goes out wide and finds a teammate in Williams. So Williams on the wing, outer side. Loads up a long left footer. Big pack. Lord is in there for Port. No one can take it. Rosie, this is where he's dangerous. Quick hands. Handball away. Gets it to Mead. Mead sits it up. It's a long kick. It's coming back. It could be a goal. Jackson Mead pops it through. And as I said, he's been really busy since he's been on. And that is terrific work by Jackson Mead. So Port get another 7-4-46. North Melbourne 4-4-28.
Yeah, Michael, but as you called it, Rosie got the ball out to him. That turn of speed was outstanding. It's those younger players that Ken Hinkley's, well, he's had the patience to wait to get him into the main part of the game, and it's in the middle of the ground. They're lighter bodies. He's waited for them to mature. They're still not the big heavyweights, but once they get their hands on it, they're fantastic in what they can do with it. Their speed to get away, precision of hand pass or foot pass, and that's the very reason why this lead has taken place this quarter.
Back in the middle, Griffin Logue, the relieving ruck for North Melbourne, missed the ball. Finlayson come up with it, handballed it out to Jason Horne-Francis. There's the booze. Little left foot ball is a scrubby one, but it'll work for Sam Powell-Pecker at left half forward. He tried to evade Sheasel, eventually got a disposal away to Wally Wines, who shared it with Mead. Back now to Powell-Pepper. Comes across the ground looking for Horne-Francis and gets him. Marks in front of Davies Uniacke, 65 metres out from goal. Probably just beyond him on suspects. He's going back deliberately, pokes it inside 50 now, looking for the leading target in Burton, unable to hit him. Griffin Logue comes up with the footy. He's taken out of bounds. We'll have a ball in about 35 metres around from Port Adelaide's left-hand goal post. Port 7-4-46, North Melbourne 4-4-28. And it comes. Logue and Finlayson jostle. Drury was there, eventually gathered by Shields. He fed it up and missed the target. Out of bounds it goes once more, right in front of the hill.
There's no room in that forward line, is there? There's just numbers everywhere. It's hard to kick the football in there and actually find a leading target. You really have to set the play up outside the front 50, basketball fashion, until something matures for you.
Another boundary throw in. Logue won the tap, gathered his own ruck work. McEntee was there. He was tackled, all hemmed in. There's a free kick that's been plucked out of this. It'll go the way of Port Adelaide. It might have been in the back.
A long way out from there. Mind you, that's where Boat kicked his goal from, wasn't it? So is there an advantage out that side of the ground?
So Jed McEntee right up against the boundary line in front of the hill. Has the footy if he's
going to back himself.
Going to go from goal. Who kick from 45. He opens up the angle ever so slightly, puts it to the front of the goal mouth. No score until it's eventually run over by Luke McDonald for a minor score. Port Adelaide add one to their tally. 7-5-47 Port Adelaide. North Melbourne 4-4-28.
19 points the margin. Port Adelaide 4 goals to 1 in this term. Sheasel long kick. Big pack of players. Bergman for Port Adelaide got first dibs on that. Couldn't take the mark. Crowd calls ball and the umpire reciprocates with a free kick. And that's against Houston, taken by Davies-Uniacke, and now Sheasel at half-back. That just went 15. I'd like to get the old string line out, Mick, on some of these.
Oh, yeah, well, I've seen him go 8 and called. I've seen him go 28 and not called.
This is Miller Bergman. And he's kept that short and too short. And Harry Sheasel couldn't take the mark, had it knocked away by Houston, and he goes off onto the interchange bench as Jack Zeeble comes back on and runs into the defensive half for North Melbourne. 19 points the lead to Port. It's been a bit closer than that though. Goldstein knocks it down. In goes Shields, spun. Davies-Uniacke got it away to Taylor. Taylor for North. Looking for Larkey. Aliir did okay. This is Bergman for Port, tackled by Spicer. Didn't think he had the ball. Larkey on hands and knees. Bonner really close to the line. By hands to Bergman. Now back to Wines, who got it from Rosé. Over the top by hand to Pal Pepper. This will be an ugly bounce, but it's beautifully read by Lord, who fed the handball away to Rosé. Rosé says, come on, come to me. But Rosé goes long. It might just bounce through it in Horne-Francis. Got a hand on it. Now he grabs it, steps around the body and kicks a goal. Wow. Connor Rosé was epic in that bit of play. And then Horne-Francis, I thought he might have done the wrong thing. I thought he would shepherd it through, but he then grabbed it, then spun around and kicked another goal. And have we got a review, have we? So now we're going to the review. So was it touched?
The review I'd like to see is Rosé. His play there was just so special. He was actually telling... I don't think that's been touched at all, is it?
No, Aiden Gore thinks he has a claim, but
that's
that
a clear goal.
to me.
Yep.
There's nothing touched there except the boot that kicked it.
We don't need any whiteout for our books for that.
No.
And I think we'll just be a matter of time before that is confirmed a goal to Jason Horne-Francis, who gets booed, of all things. And he gets his first of the afternoon at the 22.5-minute mark. Port Adelaide 8-5-53, North Melbourne 4-4-28. And as you said, Mick, Connor Rosé.
Oh, special, just special. It's the speed kills, and the speed of that player there, and the execution of the kick. He eased up and with his left hand nominated the play to come to him. I'm going to kick it to you. With that, he kicked it over the top. Would have gone through for a goal. But just special play. And that's been the difference this quarter. Absolutely. We know that Simpkins getting it. We know that Davies-Uniacke are getting it. But when you analyse the other midfielders for Port, they are making a mess of North Melbourne through this corridor.
Challenge being thrown down to North Melbourne now. Back in the middle. Davies-Uniacke handball was broken up. On hands and knees was Rosé. Had a big quarter. Eventually scraps a kick forward, does Rosé. Tumbling ball inside forward 50 for Port Adelaide. Zeeble met it first and just hacked it forward. It was fortuitous as it fell onto the chest of Davies-Uniacke. His short ball just went the 15 to Cam Zurhaar, who marks on the near wing, right on the logo. Comes wide to Phoenix Spicer. Well, he took the mark and then handball to Jack Marnie running past. Almost missed him. Forced a miss kick. Contested ball here inside 50 for North Melbourne, but it'll be a Port Adelaide free kick against Hugh Greenwood, who was a little sloppy in the contest.
He's been a fantastic player for Port. Aliir, you know, you think to yourself way back that Sydney need that sort of player, and how he ever got away, it's incredible.
Short ball to Wines, who gave it to Butters by hand. His kick into the middle of the ground now, right to the bootlaces of a teammate who was unable to gather. They turn it over. Port Adelaide and North Melbourne come up with it. Curtis Taylor at right half forward, kicks in the Larkey direction, but Aliir comes across with a mighty fist and knocks it over for a boundary throw in, right forward pocket. North Melbourne attacking half, 8-5-53, Port Adelaide, 4-4-28, North Melbourne, 24.5 gone second term. Grandstand AFL from Bellerive. Hope you're enjoying the coverage.
Boundary throw in, North in attack. Can they score from this? Spice is just off the back play here. He might get it in a second. Doesn't come to him. It's taken by Marnie. Marnie to Stevenson. Kick was smothered. Here's Spicer, but no, he can't get it. Bergman with a real high ball that Miller Bergman sits under. Has it punched away by Boak. Well done by Simpkin. Got it to Mackay. And another real high ball. And sitting under it is the captain, Jonas. Dropped the mark. No free kick either. Here's Simpkin. Dodges a couple. Jammed it on the boot. Goldstein's in good position. But the mark now taken by Bergman. Bergman with a bit of pace and a bit of style, just spots up his man, and that's Connor Rosey, almost in the centre of the ground.
Rosey marks at centre half back, pops one over to his mate in Butters, who gratefully accepts on the outer wing. He just stops some props and looks ahead, eventually pokes one short to Rosey, who kept on running unchecked, plays on immediately, gets around the Drury tackle, spins inside 50, go Port Adelaide. Finlayson met it on the bounce, dodging, weaving, ducking, diving, got onto his left boot, turned, fired, missed.
That would have been something.
Great. Yeah, could have laid off the hand pass, Finlayson, but once he broke free and on his left side, even though it was hemmed into the fence, it's still worthy of a shot. But that's Rosey, Butters, Drew. Keep calling their names. They are having a massive impact.
1-2 to Finlayson. 8-6-54 Port. North Melbourne 4-4-28. Free kick going here to Teakle. So he's about 80 from goal. He's got his back right to us. He's kicking to the David Boone stand end. He goes into the pocket, and that kick will work out okay. Bergman, I think it might have been, who drifted forward there for Port Adelaide, couldn't take the mark. Now Boak, he's tackled. Zeeble, he's tackled to ground. Ball close to the line. Umpire says, give it to me. Another stoppage. So Port pressing here. It's been all Port Adelaide in this term. Goldstein almost handed it to his midfielder. Oh, it spins out towards Finlayson, who has a shot for goal and almost missed everything and pops it through for behind. 1-3 to Jeremy Finlayson. 8-7-55 Port Adelaide. And North Melbourne 4-4-28. 27 gone second term.
Out of defence now, North Melbourne. Getting across was Mead. He broke up the kick from Curtis Taylor, who was looking for Paul Curtis, and knocked it out of bounds in front of the hill. Just in front of centre wing. Attacking side for Port Adelaide. In it comes. Rucks go at it. Teakle over the top. Simpkin won it at ground level. It might have been legged by Ollie Wines. He was. He'll get a free kick at right half back for North Melbourne. Just considers his options and eventually goes up the line towards Paul Curtis, who marks on the lead.
It's too slow, North. They're looking for the perfect lead. It's just not coming. He's got to get the ball moving quicker because Port get their numbers back so quickly.
Left foot ball from Curtis. They're inside attacking 50 North Melbourne, but it's all Port Adelaide as Houston swoops through, shares it with Bergman. He clears the area. Butters had to stand strong. He did. He didn't take the mark down, but he was cannoned into by Luke McDonald. He got one squarely in the back.
Yeah, that's allowed. You know, the funny thing about the rules is you're allowed to spoil the ball, and there's contact and there's incidental contact. That's just because it was hard.
Butters, free kick, went to Wines, who gave it to Bergman. Inside 50 now go Port Adelaide. One-on-one contest. Zeeble, now Mackay lends support. It spills out in the Mead direction, gathers on the bounce, hands it off to Burton. Time to stop and prop. Kick on goal is good. Ryan Burton adds to the tally of goal kickers. Found himself with some time and space inside forward 50 and made no mistake from 35, Ryan Burton. And Port Adelaide extend their lead. They're 9-6-60. 9-7-61. My apologies. North Melbourne 4-4-28. 29 minutes gone in this second term for Grandstand AFL. Mick Malthouse.
I'm trying to work out where Burton's playing. I see him inside the front 50, I see him inside the back 50, so I'm not 100% sure where he's coming from, but again, I'll just emphasise the length of kick from the Port players compared to the first quarter has put North to the torch because they're not being able to get the numbers back to help each other out. And when you do that, even a 50-50 ball means that you're going to have a shot 1 in 2, and that's exactly what Port have been able to do, is get a good score on, whereas North are moving the ball just too slow.
33 points, a game high for Port Adelaide. It just continues to be a game high back in the centre. No one can get it out of there. Wines on hands and knees. Clean pick up by Bonner. Now gets it to Butters. Butters just sits it up. Gives Lord a bit of a run out, but he misjudged it. And getting back was Zeeble, who took the mark and spreads it out wide to Taylor, who dropped the real sitter and then kicked it out of bounds. And then he'll be pinged for deliberate. Or will he?
I think he's going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I think he made so much of a meal of it that he that he got the benefit.
How close to last touch out of bounds are we, Mick?
The umpires' union.
Okay.
Once they lose a few members, boundary umpires, that'll be it. It'll be all over.
Here's Bonner, who gets it to Drew. Drew hoists it high. Butters just stood, couldn't take the mark. In goes Farrell. He's tackled. And it's about 40 metres out, 45 metres out from Port's goal. It'll be a ball up. Port by 33 points.
Yeah, it's just the game's just flipped on its head, isn't it? The Port's running capability has been the difference. And there's a shepherd in the ruck. No, It's not. It's going the other way. That's incredible. But nonetheless, it is their best player for sure is Goldstein.
Around the back goes Perez, receives the Goldstein handball. He's butchered the footy and turned it straight over to Burton. Couldn't take the mark, but got the handball up to Bonner. He fires on goal. Does he have a second? He does. Riley Bonner with a beautiful left foot ball capitalises on the North Melbourne mistake. And it's just starting to get a little ugly here at Bellerive for North Melbourne. Port Adelaide bang through their 10th of the afternoon. 10-7-67, plays 4-4-28. That's deep into the second term here at Bellerive. Mick Malthouse.
Yeah, that's just a beautiful finish. You love seeing that left footer just take that little bit of arc, knows where the goal is. It's against the fence type thing, if you like, but it was always going to swing back. It's quite remarkable how this game has just flipped on its head. We're just talking to Michael. It's incredible how when you get a midfielder that just all of a sudden starts to control the ball, your back line then frees up, your forward line know it's coming in there, it puts reverse pressure on the other side. North Melbourne then are under pressure in the back line, giving the ball away so often.
7-4 to 1-2, so Port Adelaide 10-7-67, North Melbourne 4-4-28 out of the centre. It could be another one here. McEntee from 45 just knocked off the kick. It floats toward goal and it is thumped through for a behind, or is it a free kick against Port Adelaide? It is. It'll go to Core. So he switches to the other side pocket and finds Zeeble. Zeeble goes in short, back to Core. So Core realises there's no one on a mark and decides to push it out wide to Perez. Simpkin. Stevenson's got to get involved here because the handball wasn't too good. Wonderful tackle by Horn Francis. Disposes of it terribly. And now, in fact, it's Bergman was the man with the free kick. At times they look the same, but one's got orange boots and the other hasn't. So away we go. Here's Bergman into the pocket. Up they fly. Ball flicks over the back. Taken by Zeeble. Zeeble's high kick. Horn Francis was going to get into position, but it's been marked by Bergman again. He's having a big day, Bergman.
Oh, he's more than a big day. He is controlling that back line. It's been outstanding the way he's played.
Bergman will send Port Adelaide inside 50 once more. Big fly at the back, off hands. It fell to the big man, Teakle. Snap on goal. Goes straight through the middle. It's an avalanche at Bellerive. Port Adelaide pile on an 11th and an 8th for the quarter. They move to 11-7-73. North Melbourne 4-4-28. And Bryn Teakle gets involved with his first of the afternoon, deep into the second term, Mick Malthouse.
Well, this is what's happened to North since their 2 wins. They've just had a bad quarter or a bad half of football. This is certainly a bad quarter. Port have taken over around the stoppages. Again, I haven't got numbers in front of me, but just by visually just looking at it. Not only that, they've gone deep with their kicking. It's placed North under pressure. Even that one there for a ruckman who has been beaten soundly by Goldstein, was able to fault the ball, fell to him, was able to snap the goal. Run off the back line's been outstanding by Port, and North will have to learn from this.
It's like a cricket match this. It's a long quarter. Back in the centre, taken by Houston. Houston kicks long. Mackay takes a lovely mark. Well, they haven't been able to do that too much. I think Port with a real short forward line have been pretty good down there. Finlayson has been okay for them. Their forward lines function well with Lord, but Mackay, so we tick into the 35th minute, kicks to a big pack. Ball smothered over the back. Goldstein, Horn-Francis, knocked at the way of Aliir. Crowd laughs as he falls over. Here's Goldstein again. Spicer in there with a tackle. There's the siren for half-time here at Bellerive on Grandstand AFL. And Port Adelaide made a big statement in that term. Port 11-7, 73, lead North Melbourne 4-4-28. It's a 45-point lead to the Power.
Goal kickers from the first half for Port Adelaide. Riley Bonner has 2. Sam Powell-Pepper has 2. Finlayson, Teakle, Boak, Burton, Horn-Francis, McEntee and Mead all with singles. And for North Melbourne, Nick Larkey has 2. Jaden Stevenson and Cam Zerha are the other goal kickers. It was an 8-goal-to-1 second term, and one that saw Port Adelaide break this game open. They take a 45-point lead into half-time as they make their way from the ground. Mick Malthouse, a quick word from you before we throw to the news.
I'm just looking at some stats here. It's a complete reversal. Port Adelaide are getting a lot more of the football. And when you get a lot more of the football, one of two things happens. You're under the pump and you have to use it because the pressure's coming from the opposition over hand pass and over kick or under kick. In this case, Port have, anytime the ball went anywhere near their back line, they're able to run the ball out, and the length of the kicking was, they went over a line. So they avoided the extra numbers of North Melbourne, put pressure on there. From the centre of the ground, went deep again, so a lot of the entrances were very deep, very dangerous, and as a consequence, Port were able to score. Conversely, North, they seemed to they went slow, they went wide, the ball just hit the 50-metre line and went back, so the one goal from Larkey was a good goal, admittedly, but the reality is this, that there is just not enough speed in the way that North Melbourne are using the football, if I could say that. They have to be addressed at half-time. It's better, you're 7 or 8 goals down, you're better off going down by 7 or 8 goals and playing a quick brand of football. I don't say give the ball up, but North Melbourne are not putting enough pressure on the back line of Port Adelaide.
It was 1 point the difference at quarter time. Port Adelaide held the advantage, and then they banged on 8-1 in the second term to take a 45-point lead into the main break. That is the tale of the tape from here at Bellerive. We'll have a quick score update for you from the SCG. 11 minutes gone in the game between Sydney and Fremantle, and it's the Dockers out by 19 points, 57 plays 38 at the SCG. But right here in Hobart, it's Port Adelaide with a commanding 45-point lead at half-time over North Melbourne. We'll take a short break and take you to the ABC newsroom.
ABC News with Satyam Weinstein. Police and protesters have clashed in fiery scenes in Melbourne's CBD. Right-wing anti-immigration demonstrators were seen doing the Nazi salute on the steps of Parliament House, but they were met by large crowds of counter-protesters and a heavy police presence. Visions of the protest show police deploying capsicum spray on some demonstrators after projectiles were hurled between the groups. A search is underway in waters off South Australia's Eyre Peninsula for a man taken by a shark this morning. It happened just north of Elliston on the western side of the peninsula. The victim is a local man in his 40s. He was with a group of other people in water off a local headland, popular with surfers, when he was taken. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has returned to his home city of Lahore after the High Court in Islamabad granted him protective bail. The 70-year-old's been given 2 weeks bail after the country's anti-corruption body arrested him earlier this week. It sparked violent protests and clashes in which at least 8 people have died. As he left the court, Mr. Khan posted a video on social media saying he'd been held against his will.
We have left for Lahore by the grace of Allah. IG of Islamabad police tried his utmost not to let us go, saying it was very dangerous outside. But when I got out and forcefully warned him that I would tell the whole of the country that he was forcibly stopping us and kidnapping us, he let us go.
Ukrainian missiles have hit targets in the occupied region of Luhansk, about 100 kilometres behind the front lines. Photos posted online show a large building reduced to rubble. The distance from the front line has sparked speculation among analysts that Ukraine may have used new longer-range missiles. It comes after the UK this week announced it had delivered Storm Shadow cruise missiles with a range of up to 300 kilometres. Papua New Guinea's Foreign Minister Justin Kashenko says he resigned to clear the air amid outrage at the cost of a trip to attend King Charles' coronation. The BBC's Kat Wiener reports.
The decision to send a delegation of 30 people to the ceremony in London last week had already proved controversial in the Pacific Island nation, where more than 40% of people live in poverty. Anger was exacerbated by scenes of first-class travel and a luxury shopping spree posted online by Mr. Kachenko's daughter, who accompanied him on the trip. When Mr. Kachenko, an Australian-born white man, denounced those criticising his daughter as primitive animals, it proved the final straw, sparking large protests outside Parliament House in Port Moresby on Friday. Mr. Kachenko said he was resigning to clear the air ahead of a state visit next week by President Biden.
The Victorian Liberal Party is trying to regroup after a controversial MP was dumped from the Victorian Party room. Yvette Gray with the details.
Victorian Liberal leader John Pesutto will today be joined by colleague Jess Wilson for a housing-related media conference as he works to show a united front within the party. Yesterday, Moira Deeming was expelled from the parliamentary team in a 19-11 vote after she threatened legal action against Mr Pesutto. Victorian Liberal Party President Greg Mirabella has since emailed all members, urging them to unite behind the parliamentary team and its leader. He also says reports the Administrative Committee is actively considering expelling Ms Deeming from the party are incorrect, as it's ultimately a matter for the State Assembly.
Brisbane's Lord Mayor has renewed his push for a vacant quarantine hub to be converted into crisis accommodation. Peter Quattrocelli reports.
Adrian Schrinner has been calling for the federal government's facility in Pinkenbar on Brisbane's north side to be used to accommodate people sleeping rough. The federal government has previously said the site is too far from necessary support services and not suitable. Social welfare groups have voiced similar concerns, saying the units don't have kitchens or laundries, and the site is not set up to accommodate people for long periods of time. But the Lord Mayor has today announced he'll commit $1 million in next month's council budget to pay for modifications, including transport.
The federal government says it's willing to work with state and local counterparts on the issue, but hasn't received a formal request. And WorkSafe is investigating an accident in Perth South where a man in his 20s had his arm trapped in a conveyor belt. Authorities were called to a business on Marriott Road at Jandakot this morning. The Department of Fire and Emergency Services says officers used an angle grinder to cut the man free. He was taken to Royal Perth Hospital. He has critical injuries to his arms, but is in a stable condition. You're now up to date with the very latest from ABC News.
What's the best thing in the world that's also on the ABC Listen app? The footy! This season, get your footy live and ad-free on the ABC Listen app. AFL, NRL, men's, women's. Whatever you fix, we've got you covered.
She's got it! Bye-bye! See you later!
Every goal, try, mark and tackle. Called by ABC Sports' expert commentary team.
Set, bingo!
AFL and NRL, live and ad-free. Get it on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Bergman, it's a nice kick, finds McEntee. He wants to go on with play. He does. That's a terrific kick. And the mark's been taken by Finlayson. Been a goal kicker for them, 11-7 this year. Spears it through for a goal. So Port get the early goal in the second term.
Burton couldn't bring it under his spell, gathered on hands and knees by Sheasel. Now it's Greenwood who lost his feet. His handball was straight to Zach Butters. Kicks across the face of goal, looking for Burton. Eventually picked up by Bonner, who rolls it through.
Rosie, this is where he's dangerous. Quick hands, handball away, gets it to Mead. Mead sits it up. It's a long kick. It's coming back. It could be a goal. Jackson Mead pops it through. Rosie says, come on, come to me. But Rosie goes long. It might just bounce through it in Horn Francis. Got a hand on it. Now he grabs it, steps around the body and kicks a goal.
Bergman will send Port Adelaide inside 50 once more. Big fly at the back, off hands. It fell to the big man, Teakle. Snap on goal. Goes straight through the middle. It's an avalanche at Bellerive.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Yes, Port Adelaide turned a 1-point quarter-time advantage into a 45-point half-time lead after rattling on 8 goals to 1 in a dominant second term. They lead in a commanding fashion here at Bellerive Oval in Hobart. Chris Rowbottom is my name. Alongside me is Michael Maney and Mick Malthouse, overseeing all the action as we prepare to get back underway for the second half, where, as I say, Port Adelaide lead 73-28 at Bellerive Oval. In the other game this afternoon being played at the SCG between Sydney and Fremantle, it's the Dockers that hold a 19-point advantage. 64 plays 45, 19 minutes gone in the third term. And a reminder, a little later in the afternoon, you'll be off to Hawthorn and Melbourne from the MCG. That kicks off at 4:35. We'll release you there at 5 o'clock. And then tonight at the Gabba, Brisbane take on Essendon. And in Melbourne at Docklands, Carlton face the Western Bulldogs. But in the here and the now, it's all about Port Adelaide and North Melbourne. Port hold a commanding lead at halftime. Michael Maney and Mick Malthouse. Mick, where did it all fall apart for North Melbourne in that second term?
Well, I'm just trying to dissect stats, and I'm not great or not big on stats. It's just about how you see the game itself. But I think we've already mentioned Rosie 7-4, and when you analyse the 7-4, something come from every one of his stats. It doesn't. I haven't got here the amount of metres he ran with the football, but he ran and broke up the line in front of him, and then he was able to use the ball correctly. So he was fantastic. Zeeble keeps getting the football. I'm talking about second quarter here. If I went for the full game, it's interesting how you can get I think probably a mixed. Simpkin, for instance, has had 5 and 13. One of the things on this ground, you notice that there's a lot of hand passing when there's a lot of traffic, and because you can't get run going with hand passes necessarily on this ground, it's just not big enough for it. So when you're over hand passing, you're generally under pressure. Simpkin, as good as he's been, 5 and 13 probably tells you the way the game's gone. Because if I went down to Butters, he's 9 and 7. Rosie 9 and 7. Big differences. Both players are using the football by foot, getting distance, getting the ball in closer to the goal square as opposed to the 50. I think the 50 is a bit of a furphy. I've always, as a coach, one of my statisticians that give me how many times we get in the front 30 more so than the front 50. North Melbourne have gone into the front 50, but it's been just in and it's come straight out. There's been little fight, unfortunately.
They've dumped it in there, Mick, haven't they? And high. It's just been picked off by Lear.
And slowly.
Yeah.
And if you take the ball in slowly on this ground against a side that can get back, and I say on this ground because you can get back quicker, then you're not only combating your direct opponent, you're combating another 3 or 4 players who are getting back. Whereas Port that quarter got the ball in there very quickly. Okay, it come out of probably 50% of the time, but the other 50% stayed in there and they scored from it, and that's why the scoreline is 11-4. It's no coincidence. You score big when you're able to isolate your key forwards or forwards, and also then you set up outside the front 50 because you keep taking the ball back.
They haven't had any chaos ball inside 50 North, have they? Because they've either tried to dump it in high and hope for a mark or get Larkey on the lead, and he's been well held, even though he's kicked a couple of goals. But Alir's done well. He's picked off third man up. But they just need to look for another way. They haven't had that chaos ball that Richmond in the time. And last night, just a dirty ball inside 50, and then someone runs onto it. Someone makes a mistake from Port, and bang. They haven't had any of that because they're going for the perfect execution when it's not a high dump ball.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm just trying to. It's interesting. I normally do this with Lingy or someone else, and when we discuss it at half time in regard to, and I say to him, listen, you can do the votes. And not that I need to say that you do the votes. He's big enough and ugly enough to do it himself, so he loves doing the votes. So it takes the heat off you. I know I'll probably have to do the votes today. I'm trying to look at it and think, where do you win games of football from? Who controls the ball the most? Who is the... You've said about Aliir. He's given North Melbourne nothing up there because of the fact that he just aligns himself to, in his mind, I'm going to spoil the football. Then they get the numbers around him. I still think that, and I said pre-game, Goldstein to me has been probably the most effective player on the ground when I look at it. But what is coming from it, yes, Davies Unalaki is getting the football, Seakin's getting the football, but not much is happening from that. Whereas when the ball falls and you've got types of players like we'll get down to Butters, Rosie, Burton, for instance, Drew, something is happening from it. And that's why when those midfielders get involved and they can use the football because they're so skillful, then things forward them generally happen. And when things forward of the midfield happen, then you're going to score. And that's why we're seeing this massive discrepancy. I mean, it's 7 goals. I mean, at quarter time there was a point difference, and really North Melbourne held their own. But this is a side that's been on the bottom for a number of years, or a couple of years, and Clarkson's come along and probably got his idea on what sort of side he wants and what sort of game style he has to incorporate. It's going to take time. There's some young players there that'll get better. There's some older players, and I talk about Goldstein and Zeeble. These sort of players are probably playing in there. Well, they're certainly at their latter part of their careers, but they're still playing very, very good football. Interesting that Goldstein wasn't in their first side in the beginning of the year, and it's come about because of injury. Yes, we understand that, but to me he's probably the most effective player. But what comes from that effectiveness hasn't been as effective for his club. So technically speaking, if I'm trying to find the best player, it's probably going to be a ground player for Port Adelaide more so than a tall player that's busted his backside, and we know he does it. Bergman off the half-back flank has been outstanding with his use of the football, the length of the football. Davies Unalaki, he
and Simpkin haven't really had the impact that they normally have. They've got the football. Sheasel's had 7 possessions.
Tighter ground.
Yep.
Tighter ground. And that doesn't say he's worried about contact or anything like that. It just is not as much space to attack the football, get the football, use the football, cut across. I'm on the grounds like this, I get critical of sides that overuse the ball laterally or behind them, because what ends up happening is players then can get in front of you, and then you've got no choice but to kick the ball long. There's a bit of a mongrel ball, a contested football. Those that have got the skills will win that football, which Port have, and they take the ball back. Grounds like this, there is a falsehood about I'm going to dissect the opposition until I get my foot on. It doesn't happen. It can't happen because there's not enough space. You've got to move the ball quickly. Alistair Clarkson, been experienced coach as he is, the instructions have got to be quite simple. 7 goals down, the scoreboard's done and dusted. Forget that. Doesn't mean you're not going to win the game. Just get rid of the scoreboard, what's behind us. Move the ball and give Larkey a chance. Give the other forwards a chance. You're not going to be able to be precise today. So move the ball in there quickly. Port have done that, and we've seen the result.
Jason Horne-Francis has received a reasonably frosty reception from the North Melbourne faithful this afternoon. He's been on the end of a couple. He's gotten a few. He's given a few. Just the 5 disposals and a goal for Horne-Francis. Yep. So he's been pretty well held. But to your point, Mick, if you'd said that Todd Goldstein had 27 hit-outs in the first half, Jai Simpkin had 18 disposals, and Davies Uniacke had 16, you would think that things would be a lot closer than 45 points at half-time in Port Adelaide's favour. Zach Butters, as you mentioned, had 16. Connor Rosie had 16, and Bergman for Port Adelaide had 13 and 4 marks. And as you say, has been prominent so far this afternoon.
Chris, can I just throw to you a question without notice? Give me Aliir's stats.
Not many.
but has a massive influence. 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Doesn't in our stat book here, it doesn't tell you how many spoils or times he's got in the road where the North players had to go around him. It's 1 and 3. 1 and 2.
3 disposals for Aliir, but certainly having an impact on this contest. Just about all set to go back in the middle for the start of the third term. Port Adelaide lead by 45 points. Third term moments away from getting underway. Players in their positions. Bellerive Oval has cooled down a little bit as the sun disappears behind some clouds and shadows befall the arena. So we wait to get things underway. Michael Maney, I'll throw it over to you for the first bounce of the second half.
45 points the difference. Port Adelaide with a stunning second quarter. Can they maintain the rage? Can North get back? Good bounce by the umpire. Both ruckmen nullify each other. That was Teakle and Goldstein. Rosé tried to go off the ground. Bonner caught with a footy and spun a couple of times by Davies-Uniacke, and it'll be another ball up.
I reckon Butters has gone to Simpkin. Or Simpkin's gone to him. No, Butters has gone to Simpkin.
Trying to drive the nail in. Here's Davies-Uniacke. Kicks inside 50. Alir couldn't take the mark, got front position. Zurha roved it well and got a little bit too much hook on it. And guess who? The man of the moment, Bergman for Port Adelaide, takes the relieving mark and then punches it out wide looking for Drew. And then the other Bergman, the only one that's not out there is Ingrid. Here's taken by Curtis. Now he tries to handball, then pushes off, then a low worm burner. He kicked the goal. Well, Curtis, he didn't know what to do. He had about 8 different things running through his mind. And in the end, he decided to go underground and kick the goal. So North get a real handy one for them just to maintain a bit of interest in this game. 5-4-34 to 11-7-73.
I was just wondering how far he went. It's an extraordinary goal. He took the hand pass, went to bounce it, went to hand pass it, went to kick it, found himself free, one missed tackle, runs in and kicks the ball on the ground. Just a beautiful finish. But I think Port would go, why didn't someone go to him? Why didn't we sort of get in his road? We all fell off him. So they paid a penalty, Port Adelaide.
So North Melbourne fire the first shot of the second half out of the ruck. Free kick will go the way of Port Adelaide. Teakle was infringed upon by Goldstein, who stands the mark. He wanted the handball running past, but he's going to have to kick it.
It's too slow moving it.
Inside 50 goes Port Adelaide off the boot of Bryn Teakle, tracking it. Unable to get a kick away was Evans, wrapped up by a pair of Kangaroos.
I think the umpires are balling it up quicker now. They're not letting the player be slung with it.
Finlayson knocked it down into the path of Davies-Uniacke. He broke the first tackle and the second, fed out a handball eventually. They worked deeper into defence here, North Melbourne. Bergman got it off to Core. It kicks towards right half back in the Marnie direction, but he showed plenty of it to Dylan Williams, who knocked it over for a boundary throw-in. Left half forward for Port Adelaide. 8 goal to 1 second term, set up a 45-point advantage at the main break, but North Melbourne have drawn first blood in this second half. Paddled down to Mackay, who's wrapped up by McEntee. Had to get rid of it. It spilled out somehow. Umpire said play on. Players converge, and the footy is underneath a pile of bodies.
Oh, I'll take that back from the umpires getting rid, balling it up quickly. That took for ages to ball it up.
Up it goes again inside Port Adelaide's attacking zone. Power Pepper out of the congestion, had his kick smothered, fell out to Drew, got the handball to Butters, little right foot ball to a dangerous spot, but getting in front and taking the mark was Bergman of North Melbourne. He's in the right back pocket. He's got Bailey Scott short if he likes, he does. Still inside defensive 50. Scott will kick up the broadcast wing. Pack will fly. Larkey was just nudged underneath it. It fell to Davies-Uniacke. Larkey received the handball, scrubbed one forward, end over end. Alir got there first for Port Adelaide. Spun out of a tackle. Which way? That way. Handball to Rosie. Up the line he goes. Getting back with courage. Griffin Lowe couldn't quite hang on. Eventually it spills out to Mead, who took the receiving handball. Power Pepper was clever. Tapped it on. Back now to Evans, who kicks inside 50. It was an absolute perler to Zach Butters, who marked in front of his eyes. Tight angle here. He's going to go back and have a set shot for goal 45 metres out.
Yeah, quick ball movement again. A lot of heavy stuff right in front of us. It was good to see, just see how players kept their eye on the football and when they're under pressure, just feed that ball back to a teammate who was in a better position to be able to go forward with it.
We have the best view in the house of this Zach Butters kick. Directly behind his kicking leg, deliberate approach. A kick from 45. Leans back on the kick, and I can tell you it's missing to the near side as soon as it left his boot. So a minor score for Port Adelaide off the boot of Zach Butters. They move to 11-8-74, leading North Melbourne 5-4-34, early stages of this third term.
The other number 9 for Port Adelaide might have been a big show of kicking that. That's Robbie Gray.
Yeah.
So the resultant kick-out's been marked by Williams of Port Adelaide. He kicks inside 50. Horn Francis can't take the mark. Got underneath the ball a little bit too. He'd be disappointed with that. And it would have been uncontested in the middle of that pack somehow.
I thought his arm might have got just nudged a bit.
Goldstein tried to hook it out. Miller Bergman. Little kick out of there to Marnie, who sold Simpkin into all sorts of trouble. And it will be a ball in. So poise with the ball is something that North have really got to work on. Alistair Clarkson would have said, well, let's get the first couple. Let's get the first couple of the second term. Well, they've got one. And Port are in attack. Goldstein took it out of the ruck, got it to Simpkin, chopped off by Williams. Williams' handball is a good one to Butters. Had a bit of hang time, but it gets to Finlayson. Now he's got to get on his left boot. He chips away at goal and misses to the left-hand side. Finlayson, isn't that a great day in front of the sticks? That's 1-4 from my reckoning. So 11-9-75 plays 5-4-34. 6 minutes gone, third term.
He had some time and space to straighten up too. Finlayson just didn't nail the finish. Zeeble kicking duties, plays on from outside the square, kicks towards half forward. Off hands was Davis Uniacke. His handball only as far as Butters. He missed the target but then went and roved his own footy. Fired one off to Alia. Inside 50 now go Port. McDonald and Pal Pepper was nudged out of it and Zeeble got across to take the saving mark. He goes across the ground now to Mackay, stabs one in short to Stevenson, still inside defensive 50. North Melbourne, he goes short again and finds a target in Liam Shields. So
this is where they're breaking down. That's the kick from centre-half back goes to the wing centre-half back, comes up the wing. 3 kicks and they've gone probably 25 metres, if that, and they're still stuck on the back end of the... it's a long kick and it's up in the air now.
Paul Curtis received it from Core. Eventually he dumped it down the line to half forward to a pack of players. Greenwood lost his feet. Drew emerged with it. Put Williams under a little bit of danger. He was tackled but got his kick away as he was spun. Greenwood out to Logue. His handball missed the mark. It'll roll into the arms of Goldstein. He got it to Simpkin, who chips inside 50. Lucky over the top. Got a good piece of it. Couldn't drag it down. Zerha got the handball out of the congestion. Came out to Scott. Flying shot on goal now. Zeeble. Curtis gets underneath it and takes the chest mark.
Yeah, good mark. Under pressure.
25 metres out from goal. Reasonably tight angle, but degree of difficulty not overly high. The shot on goal from Sheasel was just off the side of the boot, but it fell fortuitously for Paul Curtis, who will line up to kick around the corner here. So Curtis fires on goal. He kicks it straight across the face and out of bounds on the full. He got it on the wrong end. And no score for North Melbourne. Failed to add to their tally. 11-9-75, Port Adelaide, North Melbourne 5-4-34, 8.5 gone. Third term for Grandstand AFL.
If you're not competent doing that, you should do a banana. Don't worry about everyone does that kick. If you can do it well, do it.
Port have got it to the wing and the outer side, and Horn Francis just spears away from Shields, and the kick was terrific to Finlayson, who juggles the mark in front of Mackay. And Finlayson will shoot for his second goal from about 35 metres out, almost directly in front.
How's that speed of Horn Francis? That broke North Melbourne up then. He could have easily disposed of the ball straight away and realised he had a foot speed advantage, took another 5 or 6 steps, which then brings it back into a dangerous position. Finlayson takes a good mark.
1-4 to Finlayson. He's got this one though. He's popped it through. He's got 2. And Port have got 12. 12-9, 81. North Melbourne 5-4, 34. 9.5 gone in the third term. Mick Malthouse for Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, well, I don't have to tell you who's coming off the ground. And he's just been interchanged. It's not as if he's injured or anything like that. He goes off the ground and Connor Rosey comes onto the ground. So one very good player for another extremely good player. I think Horn Francis at his youth, coming to his second year, will be a superstar, just the way he goes about it, hard at it. Rosey has taken time. He's a small half forward now. He's just brilliant in the middle, up there with the best players today. There's no doubt about that. They make things happen, players like that. Him and Butters.
Back in the middle, Goldstein just palmed it down into the path of Shields, but he was unable to gather. Rosey pounced on the loose footy and sent Port Adelaide inside 50. Finlayson got rid of his man. Can he kick a third? High ball towards the top of the square. Pack forms underneath it, taking a wonderful mark. Getting back was Ollie Lord.
Yeah, good mark. That ball sat there for a long time, didn't it?
Had to wait, Ollie Lord, and had all sorts happening around him, but stood tall and took the clunk. He'll kick for goal. 35 metres out. Slide angle. He too will go around the corner. Ollie Lord in for Charlie Dixon this afternoon. Makes no mistake. Achieves what Paul Curtis was unable to at the other end. And kicks his first for the afternoon. Port Adelaide get 2 in a row after North Melbourne kicked the first of the term, and they extend the margin. 13-9-87. Plays 5-4-34. 11 minutes gone in this third term at Bellerive Oval for Grandstand AFL. Mick Malthouse.
If I was drawing a line between why the scoreline is 13 goals to 5, outside of its good players by Port making good decisions, it's probably the converse to North Melbourne. A few of their players under pressure have just coughed up the football, made the wrong decision, haven't been precise with the ball. Even the young fella now, Ollie Lord, takes a very, very good mark. That ball's hung in the air for a long time, and he's able to finish it off very well. Just all over the ground, Port seem to be just a few percentage points better in everything they do.
53 points the margin. The bounce in the middle is just having the ball move slightly from the centre circle. And another ball up.
Free kick.
It'll be a free kick. It'll go to Goldstein.
Has to.
Young Teakle just trying to scruff hold of him in that ruck contest. Just a few more pre-seasons up his sleeve, Toddy Goldstein, than young Teakle. So he kicks. It's a shallow inside 50. Oh, lovely mark taken by Butters. Eyes only for the football. Got it to Farrell by hand. So Farrell goes to the wing. High, setting it up for Lord. He's got the sit. Just ran under the footy a little bit. And he was tunnelled, according to the umpire. So Jack Zeeble gives away the free kick and then pleads his case to the umpire, but I don't know that that's ever really worked.
I think it might have hurt his shoulder too, Zeeble.
Lord, punchy kick, inside 50, 25 metres out. Miles Bergman, I should say Miller Bergman, just sat on the footy. Boak put him out of his misery by scruffing the ball from him, and then he got caught. So it's about 30 metres out from the Port Adelaide goal. They lead by 53.
Up it goes. Another chance here for Port Adelaide. Mackay off the tap, off to Sheasel's been quiet this afternoon. Missed call with the handball, but he scrambles it over the line for a minor score. Zeeble plays on immediately out of full back. He's got Davies Uniacke all alone at right half back for North Melbourne. He drills the ball up the line, unable to hit a target. At the fall was Bailey Scott, who gathered cleanly, gave it to Simpkin by hand. He's tackled by Houston. He's going to be pinged. He took him on, but Houston said, "You're not going anywhere, Jai Simpkin." There's half a chance for a 50 there too.
Didn't want to give it back to him.
He really didn't enjoy being pinged by Houston, who sends Port Adelaide inside 50. Big fly over the top from Burton. Offhand Zeeble. Handball in the Davies Uniacke direction. He shared it with Scott, who got it to Sheasel. He got it to Shields by hand. Looking for Greenwood inside. He's converged upon by 5 Port Adelaide players. Somehow squeezed out a handball. It comes out to Sheasel. Short ball's good to Shields, who kept on running and receives the 15-metre pass. He's got it right in front of the broadcast position, just back of a wing for North Melbourne. Butters stands the mark as Shields calls for something to come up the line at him. Griffin Logue presents, couldn't take the mark in the end, knocked off into open play. Logue goes and gets it. Tried to handball to Shields. He had Horne-Francis for company. Went after the footy. Shields drove him into the ground. Contested ball on the deck. All wrapped up. Umpire makes his way to the contest and says, I'll have it, please. 13-10-88, Port Adelaide. North Melbourne 5-4-34. 14 minutes gone in this third term. Davies-Uniacke at the full. Greenwood's in there. Tackled by Ollie Wines. He can't quite wrench it out. Eventually it spills free. Davies-Uniacke gathers. Tackled by Drew. Handball into the congestion. Greenwood came up with it. Put Sheasel under the pup. He was tackled. Scott. Now Stevenson. Now Bergman for North Melbourne. Good pass inside. Larkey lunging. Unable to hang on to it. Immediately tackled at ground level by Aaliyah. And he's going to be pinged for holding the ball.
That's tough.
He dropped the mark, dragged it back in, immediately tackled by Aaliyah, and he suffered the consequences. Free kick to Port Adelaide. The short ball to Horne-Francis inside the defensive 50 is good.
Horne-Francis now goes in short to Houston. So Houston right off the back of his defensive 50, and now I think Greenwood might have moved a left foot on the mark.
I reckon he moved his eyebrow.
Yeah.
Fair, and that is just dreadful.
Yeah, we need to tidy that up. That stand rule thing, that's just got to go to the waste bin. Short kick finds Jonas, who's at centre half forward. He's desperate for someone to run past. Houston's a good man. He's got to give it back to Jonas. Jonas eventually kicks, and he makes a good fist of it too. And Big Tom kicks a goal. Raises the fist in jubilation. That's his first goal of the year. May even be his first goal for Port Adelaide. He plays down back, almost exclusively Tom Jonas, the captain, and didn't want to kick it. Houston was strolling past. Houston was covered, and then Big Tommy said, well, give me a crack at it.
Well, he wanted to give it to the designated kicker in Houston, but ended up with it, and he ended up being the designated kicker. It was a terrific finish.
He punched it. It was a wonderful kick. 14-10-94, Port Adelaide. North Melbourne 5-4-34.
Just looking at the players on the back line for Port Adelaide, the length of their kicking is outstanding. Jonas then was one or two steps before he kicked the ball 50 metres. Burton's an excellent kick. McKenzie's a magnificent kick. Bergman's a fantastic kick. Williams is a terrific kick. So when they've got it, and they've got 1 or 2 metres up their sleeve, they are whacking the ball to the wing and putting themselves in a terrific position to score.
Ollie Wines out of the middle for Port Adelaide, gets things moving. Forward they go. Unable to take the mark was Evans. It spilled out to Luke McDonald, who was driven into the ground by Willem Drew. Andrew Cooling on the boundary with some injury news.
Paul Curtis has just hobbled off for North Melbourne, currently in the hands of physios and trainer clutching an upper right leg.
Kick out of the congestion from Hugh Greenwood. Unable to take the mark was Shields. Tracking it was Bergman. Wines went in there hard. Got the little kick out in the Finlayson direction. He gathered the footy, but was immediately tackled by Luke McDonald. We'll have a ball up just inside Port Adelaide's attacking 50.
10 goals the margin now. Port Adelaide have put the foot down in this quarter. Goldstein, well, it was the turning circle of the spirit of Tasmania there, big Toddy, and he got nailed. He got nailed by Evans. Just couldn't get his kick away, dropped the ball, and now Evans will have a shot for goal. Francis Evans, just another one of those little busy players who uses the football very well for Port Adelaide. And he'll kick from about 47 metres out, slight angle. Very deliberate. Here he comes. Evans gets a wind-up, gets a good piece of it. That's a wonderful kick by Evans. They can do no wrong, the men from Melbourne. And they get goal number 15, and they hit triple figures, 15-10, 100 to 5-4-34, Andrew.
Well, it's getting worse for North Melbourne. In addition to Curtis, Flynn Perez has just gone down into the rooms to get checked out. They're down to 2 on the bench for the time being, the Kangaroos.
Oh, that's no good. And they're bringing off, say, Mackay, and I don't get that. Mackay is a key back who would hardly raise a sweat for the whole match. So when you're down players, then you must protect your midfield, who are going to probably suffer the most in terms of running. So you get those big players back on the ground and just utilise players, high forwards and midfields come off. The rest of them can stay on. That's a ridiculous move.
66 points the margin in Port Adelaide's favour as Horn Francis busts out the middle of Bellerive, breaks a couple of tackles, had nowhere to go, so fed the handball back to Ollie Wines. Inside 50 go Port Adelaide once more. At the fall of the ball was McEntee. Contested footy, Willem Drew pattered it into the path of Harry Sheasel, who just flings it onto the boot, gets as much distance as he can. Alir met it, couldn't take the mark in North Melbourne hands at half forward though. Zerha got rid of it, but only just. Logue came crashing through. Greenwood was tackled. Simpkin released Davies Uniacke. Handball over the top to Stevenson. Another handball now to Scott. Little ball inside is good to Larkey, who marks 40 metres out from goal. Tightish angle. They made hard work of it, North Melbourne, but eventually managed to chain it all together, and Nick Larkey got on the end of it. He'll kick for his second goal of the afternoon, and don't they need it? The Kangaroos.
He'd be wrapped that Alir wasn't anywhere near him. He had a player on him, but Alir got stuck in the middle of the ground. There's a bit of a change over there.
So reasonably tight angle for Nick Larkey, who'll kick from probably 35 metres out. No troubles for Larkey, who pops through his second of the afternoon and brings the margin back to an even 10 goals. 6-4-40. North Melbourne trail Port Adelaide 15-10-100, 21 minutes gone in this third term at Bellerive for Grandstand AFL. Hope you're enjoying the coverage with Michael Maney and Mick Malthouse.
Well, it's been a little bit disappointing in many respects. We thought that North Melbourne would have been probably a bit better on this ground, with the talk before the game that they got beaten by St Kilda last week, but they weren't killed by them. But right now, second and third quarters in particular, Larkey's held up. He's kicked 3 goals. When the ball goes near him on his terms, he's big and he's strong and he's a beautiful kick for goal. But they've just been dominated at ground level.
10 goals the margin from the centre. Davies Uniacke. Handball chopped off by Rosey, falls back to Simpkin, tries to break the tackle of Houston. And that's one thing that North midfielders have tried. They've tried to bust through multiple tackles, and they've just been nailed by Port for most of the day. Teakle knocked it down, sharked by Davies Uniacke, away to Simpkin. Finally got it away, Sheasel. Just a real up and under kick. Logue in front, can't take the mark. Curtis is back on the ground. This way, that way. Got the handball away. Stevenson, he's normally a dead-eyed dick with these snapshots, and I think he's popped it through. No, he hasn't. Just fading away. Stevenson can do the mercurial, but not that time. 6-5-41 North. Port 15-10-100. 22 and a half minutes gone, third term.
Yeah, you're right, Michael. Stevenson can do that. He's got that touch about him that he just doesn't do it enough, though. And having said that, the ball hasn't overly been delivered well into their forward line.
Dylan Williams just ambles out of full back and sends a torpedo wide. It'll go out of bounds for a throw-in. It was like a kick for touch or an NFL punt. And have a boundary throw-in in front of the North Melbourne interchange bench, just forward of a wing for the Kangaroos. And it comes. Teakle and Goldstein do battle. Horn Francis couldn't gather. Hacked off the ground by Shields. Gets some pretty good meterage. It's met by Alir inside defensive 50. He's tackled over the boundary by Larkey. Crowd wanted insufficient intent. Umpire said no. We'll ball it in. 45 metres around from the right hand behind post. North Melbourne's attacking zone. Goldstein palmed it in front of Simpkins. Zerha went after it, as did Curtis. Wrapped up by 2 Port Adelaide players. Houston and Horn Francis turned tacklers. We'll have another stoppage 45 metres out from goal. Up it goes. Goldstein won it down. Houston flashing through. Just got the handball out to Butters. He weaved back through traffic. Horn Francis ends up with it. His short ball is good to Farrell.
Always finds a way to get on that right boot, doesn't he? He's just steady, Horn Francis. And that's the sign of a good player.
I'm just watching Ben Mackay. He's going to come on soon. I hope he goes forward. They don't need him in the back line. Port are small down there. They're not overly tall. Lost players like Marshall, and they've lost Dixon before the game. So I hope he goes forward and starts to stretch out the Port defence.
The kick here finds Horn Francis in front of, and he just dwells for a while to soak in all of the noise, and he shorts it up and finds Bergman for Port Adelaide. A couple of Bergmans out there today. Nice kick by Bergman. Up they go. Lord couldn't take the mark. Rosie played for the free kick, and there will be a free kick. It'll come to Port Adelaide. It's going to Pal Pepper, is it? Might have been pushed or held without the footy. Didn't quite see that. So Sam Pal Pepper, who kicked the first goal of the day at the 1.5 minute mark. And he's got 2. So he'll get the free kick. Shields stands the mark. He's about 35 metres out from goal. Slight angle. And Sam Pal Pepper winds it up. Here he goes. Got it on the boot okay as it just missed away to the right and A behind.
This box here has me looking around corners. I thought, I'm not going to look around and get in front of you. I'll just watch his reaction. He was, as he kicked it, he was leaning, and then he threw his head back. So you know they've missed it from that.
McDonald with the kick in duties, clears defensive 50. Off the pack, Drury sends a barrel towards centre half forward for North Melbourne. Getting underneath it was Zerha. Turned to look towards home, saw a vacant goal square, decided to have a ping and kicked an absolutely magnificent goal on the bounce. Coast to coast footy, North Melbourne. Cam Zerha. And that's what happens when you move it quickly, Mick Malthouse. 15-11, 101 Port Adelaide. 7-5-47 North Melbourne. 26.5 gone. Third term for Grandstand AFL.
Spot on, Chris. The movement was quick. The summing up of Zerha was outstanding. Not only did he take the mark and look around and nothing in front of him, knew he was capable of kicking the ball 45 to 50 metres from that. It turned probably about 50 metres, and then all you need to do is just have a good bounce, and that was always going to go through. So well done, well summed up. They're rare positions at the moment with North Melbourne. They're not happening that often, but when they do, the Larky goal and that goal there have been invaluable, but it's smart the way they've gone about it.
4-4 to 3-1 in this term. Favour of Port. 15-11, 101 to 7-5-47. Rosie, nice little handball away to Butters. So Butters will kick inside 50. Lord's got to contest this, ran under the footy, and Zerha read it beautifully. He's got a man on the spread in Drury, but decides to go right up the centre to Simpkin. Simpkin now goes wide to Drury, who gets a block, but dropped what he should have taken. And Bonner arrives on the scene, and the ball will be held up. Just some elementary stuff from North Melbourne.
I just can't understand why Zebra would go from centre half back to the flank when they've seen how that last goal was got. It's okay if there's a spare player by himself, but he wasn't. And that's why the ball has now been got by Port Adelaide from the stoppage.
Drew from Port just hoists it high. Now McDonald just dumps it out of there to the wing. Williams in good position. Well done by the young man there in Phoenix Spicer, and knocks it out of play. It'll be a boundary throw-in. We've gone almost 28 minutes in the third term. 7-5-47 North Melbourne. Port Adelaide 15-11 101.
I wish I had a name like Phoenix Spicer.
Well, you'd be in Hollywood.
It's a terrific name. Free kick out of the ruck contest will go the way of Todd Goldstein. Bronx cheers from the Bellerive grandstands.
Big Toddy. They're 9 goals down. You'd like to be able to squeeze him into a vote. Right now, you'd have to give him a third vote, but 9 goals down is a long way. There must be some good players from the opposition.
Kicks towards right half forward, where Griffin Logue presents. He's been a little bit of a jack of all trades this afternoon.
He's been okay. You'd say okay. And even that kick there, you wonder what's going to come of it.
Oh, he's gone laterally to McDonald. He goes to Bailey Scott for the gain of 0 metres. He runs 10 and then sends North Melbourne inside 50 into the pocket. Alir in best spot. Dropped what he probably should have taken. Roving was Zerha, immediately tackled by Trent McKenzie and rolled onto the Bellerive turf. We'll have a ball up 35 metres around from the right-hand goal post. North Melbourne's attacking zone. Up it goes. Off the pack was Davies-Uniacke. Little underground handball to Paul Curtis. Out of the congestion, Goldstein. He was taken over the line by Teakle. We'll have a boundary throw in the exact same spot. Port Adelaide 15-11-101. North Melbourne 7-5-47. 29.5 gone third term.
When North play on instinct, they're much better. But when they think about it too much, that's when it comes undone. There goes Curtis. They're just inside 50, North Melbourne. Free kick. And it's coming back. It'll go to Port Adelaide, will it? It'll go to young Teakle. Just inside his defensive 50 on the broadcast side of the ground. Hoists it high, but Goldstein gets back uncontested. Lord got nowhere near that contest. Goldstein inside 50. Teakle can't take it. Spicer nicely under Curtis. Now Curtis got to hit a target here, and he does.
Yeah, good play. Really good play. Good play by Tony Goldstein. His man kicked it to him, and he got position. He knew they had to go up the line. There's not enough space on the far side. So that's put some pressure on him, hasn't it?
Jade Stevenson with the kick to level it up goals-wise, at least in this term.
And that's a good start.
The win.
2 right, 1 bad quarter.
Here's Stevenson. Can he do it from right on the paint of 50? We know he's got a good leg. That's a good kick. It's got plenty of distance. It's got the accuracy. And Jaden Stevenson gets his second right on the hooter. And North Melbourne get their 8th. 8-5-53. Port Adelaide 15-11-101, Chris. And a much improved performance in that third term in the end by North, booting 4 goals.
Well, they managed to wrestle it back somewhat. Still a 48-point advantage to Port Adelaide to go into the fourth and final frame after a 45-point halftime advantage. So they increased the lead by 3 points, but North Melbourne were able to at least compete and stem the flow somewhat. Some stats for you and goal kickers. For Port Adelaide, Jeremy Finlayson has 2 goals, 4. Riley Bonner and Sam Powell-Pepper have 2 goals apiece. Singles to Teakle, Boak, Burton, Evans, Horne-Francis, Jonas, Lord, McEntee and Mead. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
11.
6, 7. 11 individual goal kickers for Port Adelaide. North Melbourne, a little thinner. Larkey has 3, Stevenson has 2, including the one he just kicked. Zerha has a couple, and Paul Curtis has 1. Some leading disposal winners for you. Davies-Uniacke leads all comers for North Melbourne. He has 27. Jai Simpkin 25, Jack Zeeble 20, Goldstein 19. For Port Adelaide, Zach Butters has 25, Rosé has 21, and Bergman has 16, as does Jeremy Finlayson, to go with that 2 goals, 4. So enjoying a good game, Jeremy Finlayson. 15-11-101 Port Adelaide to North Melbourne 8-5-53. 1 final quarter to come. Let's take a short break. See you on the other side of this.
Hello, I'm Patrick Stack, and if you like great stories and you enjoy sport, then I reckon you need ABC Sport Daily in your life.
Oh, man, imagine 60,000 people when you go to your place of work, roundly jeer you.
A judge is not judging you based off of how cute you are or how much excitement you get from the crowd.
I can't even imagine I haven't been at 49 kilos for a very, very long time.
It's a daily sports conversation, and it's called ABC Sport Daily. Find us on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Port have got it to the wing on the outer side, and Horne-Francis just spears away from Shields, and the kick was terrific to Finlayson, who juggles the mark in front of Mackay, and Finlayson will shoot for his second goal from about 35 metres out. 1 goal, 4 to Finlayson. He's got this one though.
Finlayson got rid of his man. Can he kick a third? High ball towards the top of the square. Pack forms underneath it, taking a wonderful mark. Getting back was Ollie Lord. Ollie Lord in for Charlie Dixon this afternoon, makes no mistake.
Houston's a good man. He's got to give it back to Jonas. Jonas eventually kicks, and he makes a good fist of it too. And Big Tom kicks a goal. Raises the fist in jubilation. Evans gets a winder. Gets a good piece of it. That's a wonderful kick by Evans. They can do no wrong. the men from Melbourne.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
A 1-point advantage at quarter time to Port Adelaide ballooned to a 45-point lead at half time, and at three-quarter time here at Bellareve, it's Port Adelaide leading by 48 points. 15-11, 101 to North Melbourne, 8-5-53. It was something of an arm wrestle in that third term, where North Melbourne found some fight and took it up to the more highly fancied Port Adelaide. It's all about running out the game now. There's another game currently being played in Sydney at the SCG. It's between Fremantle and Sydney, and it is the Dockers leading 15-7, 97 to Sydney's 11-7, 73. So 24 points the advantage there. The Dockers, an upset brewing at the SCG, 21 minutes gone in the fourth and final term in Sydney. But the players from both teams currently are in their huddles, about to break and make their way out into their positions for the fourth and final term. North Melbourne were a little improved there, Mick Malthouse, but still a lot of work to do if they're to make any inroads in this fourth and final quarter.
Oh, absolutely. Full credit to them, though, because they trailed badly at half-time, and to kick 4-1 to 4-4, so they only lowered their colours by a couple of points, but I thought the intent was there, and I thought the execution was secondary to Port. There's no question about that. But there seemed to be an endeavour to actually move the ball a little bit quicker and a little bit longer, and we've seen a couple of goals scored because of that. Even the last goal by Stevenson, a pressure goal, you might say, 40-odd metres out, directly in front. Siren's gone. Need to just to halve the quarter, if you like. But I'm still amazed at he's just an absolute cracker as Goldstein. I'm going to find it hard to put him in the vote when you get beat by 8 or 9 goals. He's had 41 hit-outs. He's had 19 disposals. I haven't got the clearances here. I'm going to get one of you blokes to see if you can dig it up. My stats don't show it. But Butters had a big quarter. Bergman had a good quarter. Finlayson was okay that quarter. For the game point of view, it's the side that's been the cleanest has been Port, and their length of kicking and probably their skill level. Let's take nothing away from North's endeavour. It's the skill level of that first 8 to 9 players that's put them well and truly in front.
Underway in the final term. Bounce of the ball. Flicks to Teakle, who followed up from the ruck contest. Handball looking for Horne-Francis. He just pops, stops and props, and the umpire's going to say, give it to me. Of course, the crowd wanted holding the ball. So, Port almost inside 50, centre half forward, Horne-Francis. Oh, coming through there was Zurhaar, and I'm not sure whether that was, let's call that clumsy at best. And Horne-Francis has been collected, and he's...
a little history between these two
as
well, isn't there, Zurhaar and Horne-Francis?
I don't know that they like each other all that much. Mick's having a look at the replay. We might get it in a moment. Taken by Horne-Francis, and he just pops it up. Good mark. No, it was touched off the boot. Evans was the man who was claiming it. Now he's got it back again. Now he jams it on the boot. It's curling around. It might bounce through for a goal. Evans has got 2. Well, it was all done in slow motion. Evans was claiming the mark. Ball was touched off the boot. And then a couple of hand passes. He ended up with it, then threw it on the boot, and he landed the goal. Evans has got a couple, and Porter back out by 54. 16-11, 107 to 8-5-53. Mick, what did you see? It's about to happen.
I don't think there's much in it. Actually, the more I look at it now, Horne-Francis fell with the ball. Zurhaar was over the back of him and strode over him. Yes, he might have been a little bit clumsy with his leg, where his knee may have clipped Horne-Francis, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt that it was just a close in contact. But I'm not 100% sure that Horne-Francis is 100%, because he got a little bit of a wobble when he kicked that football.
8 clearances, Goldstein, to answer your question from earlier.
Oh, he's just outstanding.
Mick Malthouse, as he goes up again, he missed the ruck tap on this occasion. Teakle couldn't quite bring it under his grasp. In there hard was Butters, I think, at the bottom of the pack. He was dragged down by Simpkin. We'll have a Ball up just in front of the centre circle. Up it goes. Goldstein, another hit out. Taken by Zerha. He was taken by Wines. Good enough to get it off to Simpkin, though. He kicked North Melbourne inside 50. Larkey got hands to it, but Alir broke it up. Bergman at ground level. Fed it off to Farrell. Was tackled around the hips by Greenwood. Got the handball out, though. Wines fed it up beautifully to Horn Francis. He takes a bounce. Make that 2 through the middle of Belrive. Eventually spots up a short target. No, he doesn't. He's turned it straight over, much to the delight of the North Melbourne faithful. Ben Mackay got in the way, took the mark, and then found Goldstein with the short pass in front of the interchange benches.
Oh, I hope he doesn't go backwards. Just go forward. His just first look was going sideways.
He does just that, but he hands it straight back to Horn Francis, and the Port Adelaide faithful get on their feet.
Well, that's a great mark because he would have heard them coming. There was 3 or 4 players behind him. They all wanted to spoil that ball.
Horn Francis kicks towards centre-half forward for Port Adelaide. There's a free kick here against Finlayson in the contest. It'll go the way of Aidan Corr. Just on the back of the square, short ball inside to Luke McDonald, who marks in front of Sam Pepper. Back of the square now. His lateral ball is good to Jack Zeeble.
It's good, but it's got them. It might have got him in the centre of the ground, but the centre of the ground is so chock full, so he has to come wide. So that ball on the third disposal is now the fourth disposal is back where the first one was. So it's a slow process, and this is what gets them into trouble because they're not skilled enough to dissect Port Adelaide's game.
It was Zeeble who combined with Corr, and then he got it to Stevenson, and now he's popped it over the top to Sheasel. So they've progressed things 12 metres further here, North Melbourne. Still in front of the interchange benches. Sheasel, he gets a little more meterage, but there's that kick down the line and the intercept. Bergman for Port Adelaide gets in front of Larkey.
I think he gets booed a bit because he's blonde hair. I think he outside of
they
his
do look alike, to be fair, Bergman and Port Adelaide. As Zach Butters takes a wonderful mark going back. He collected Marnie in the process, who's in a little bit of trouble at centre-half back. We'll get down to Drew Cooling shortly. Port Adelaide have it on the outer side of the ground. Pepper at left-half forward.
It's dislocated his shoulder, I'll give you the tip.
Jack Marnie is in a world of pain, hobbling his way from the arena as Pepper pumps it inside 50 for Port Adelaide all the way to the back of the square. It trickles over for a minor score. Andrew Cooling, what are you seeing?
Looking at considerable pain at the moment. North Melbourne already down to 3 on the bench. Perez has been ruled out for the rest of the match. Curtis only just reappeared himself on the bench a minute ago, so it looks like they're going to be back down to 2 on the bench. But yeah, I'd say his afternoon is done. He looks in considerable distress.
Well, that action, when you hit that shoulders like that, I've had a reconstructed shoulder, so I can say how it happened. So when those 2 arms locked together, one was going to give way. He's gone down in the race. No doubt his shoulder's out of joint.
Already had it heavily strapped too,
yes,
so he's probably got some prior going on there.
Which is a shame. It's just, it's a tough game, made for tough players. Sad.
Well, North Melbourne have inched the ball to the outer side wing. Mackay had it for North Melbourne and couldn't find a teammate, and it just rolls out of play right in front of the big scoreboard on the outer side. So it'll be thrown back in. Goldstein and Teakle. Teakle will learn a fair bit today, I can tell you. There's Wines with a little right footer. No mark taken. Pepper swoop. Ends up with Corr. Now Scott for North Melbourne. Back to Zeeble. Zeeble with the real wobbly ball onto the wing. Spicer was in front, couldn't take the mark. Teakle just shoved out of it. Out of the way, and it just rolls back into the same spot it was about 30 seconds ago. It'll be a boundary throw-in.
16-12, 108, Port Adelaide. Lead North Melbourne 8-5-53. 6.5 gone in this fourth and final term at Belrive. Off the pack was Horn Francis. Got it to Wines, who shared it with Mead. Onto his left boot. He sends it towards half forward for Port Adelaide. Drury got across for North Melbourne. Broke things up, but it was all wrapped up in the arms of Sheasel as 2 Port Adelaide players arrived on the scene. Ball up at left half forward. Up it goes. Teakle won it down. Greenwood fed it out. It was, well, Rosie's eyes lit up. He thought it was a Port Adelaide free kick and therefore advantage, but it'll be a free kick to North Melbourne. Hugh Greenwood will take it inside defensive 50. He's going to go short to Aidan Corr, still inside the defensive zone. Port Adelaide are well and truly set up here behind the ball. So Corr goes up the outer wing. Getting in front was Jonas, had a piece of it, couldn't bring it down. He spilled it over the boundary line for a boundary throw-in right in front of the hill. 16-12, 108, Port Adelaide lead. North Melbourne 8-5, 53, 7.5 gone. Fourth and final term for Grandstand AFL. Michael Maney.
If you're going to watch the game back, minute number 6 to 7.5, not real good. As
fast forward?
Yeah, fast forward through that bit. Spicer for North Melbourne. He's an excitement machine, Spicer. Just taken to ground, got the handball away. Now Bergman for Port Adelaide. Fed it out. Williams can't grab it. Spicer's back in there, but he's nailed by Bergman in the tackle. But, he's busy.
Yeah, he's busy and quick.
And quick.
Yeah.
He just needs a bit more confidence at this level, and I think he'll be a player for them, like a little Cozzy Pickett type.
Well, he's just got that way about him that he could crumb the ball to the bigger players like Larkey and just cause that back line player to stay off the double up in the air.
Quick defensive forward. Read off the pack beautifully by the tap by Horn Francis. Can't quite get it. Here's an opportunity for Spicer, the man we're talking about. Didn't get a real good bounce, then just ran past it. It's inside North Melbourne's forward 50. A little quick kick by Sheasel. Bonner, he's kicked a couple of goals. Just dispossessed. Spicer did nicely. Away they go again, taken by Stevenson, and Stevenson just settles things down. And a little 15-metre pass finds Griffin Logue, and he's about 45 metres out on a slight angle. And Griffin Logue, as you said, Chris Robot, has played about everywhere today. He's been in the ruck, he's been down back, he's been up forward. He's been your patch-it-up man all day.
Yeah, he has. And that's the way he played at Fremantle too, so he's quite used to this.
So here he goes from 45. That's a brilliant kick by Logue. We know he can go forward and kick goals. He's played quite a lot at Fremantle up forward, and he boots his first of the afternoon. And it is back to a 49-point margin now, and the scoreline is Port Adelaide 16-12, 108. North Melbourne 9-5, 59, and at least they're showing a bit of fight.
Yeah, it's quite interesting being a former coach, watching these games at this time of the day with probably, let's say 15, 12 minutes left to play. You're secure, you've won the game. The damage to the scoreboard is minimal. You want to save your side. You'd almost like to. There's another North Melbourne player limping off, and that's the tragedy of this.
It's Davis Uniacke.
Yeah, and he looks like he's holding his hamstring, so it looks like he is. So it doesn't look good for North Melbourne. They've come away with 3 or 4 injuries, not good injuries, and they're going to be week-long injuries by the way, or over week-long injuries the way it looks. It's just a shame.
Back in the middle with a layer of dew forming here at Bellerive as it gets a little greasier here in Hobart. Rosé rode the tackle, got the handball out in the Drew direction. He's got Spicer to contend with. He pounced on a loose footy, got it off to McDonald. Greenwood back to Spicer. Now Zerha on the outer side. His short ball is good to Bailey Scott, who marks in front of Houston.
29 possessions, Davey's unit too. So it's a lot of possessions. North can't afford players like that off the ground, and unfortunately it does look like going down the race doesn't look good.
Short ball inboard to Sheasel, who tried to get things moving with a stab pass up the line, but Travis Boak got in front of his man and took the saving mark. He sends it to left half forward for Port Adelaide. Big pack flew. Greenwood got the spoil off hands Bailey Scott. He was dispossessed by Burton. Zeeble came through, got the handball off to Sheasel, gave it to McDonald, spun the full 360. Handball off to Corr, hassled off it by Burton, sent it up the line. Curtis and Mackenzie jostled, and Curtis infringed and just nudged Mackenzie underneath the footy. He'll take the free kick for Port Adelaide. Outer side wing in front of the hill. Short ball, searching for Boak on the lead. He marks, turns and goes quickly.
Yeah.
15-metre kick to Drew.
The appropriate word, quickly, and hence the player can run onto the football.
Drew stabs on in now to Butters, who marks on his chest. Still too far out to score. 75 metres out from goal at left half forward. The electric Zach Butters cuts inside, sends Port Adelaide inside 50, looking for McEntee, couldn't take the mark. McDonald gathered the footy, he was tackled by Pau Pepper, and it'll be a forward half stoppage for Port Adelaide. 12.5 gone in this fourth term. A healthy advantage to Port. 16-12, 108. North Melbourne 9-5, 59.
Little quick snap out of there as a goal. Just as I was putting up my binoculars, and I think it might have been Drew, was it? That's got his boot to ball, snapped at goal, and Port get another one. So Willem Drew doesn't kick many goals. Drew, a lot of people call him William, of course, but Willem Drew, only 1 goal 2 for the year, but he's got his second goal of the year. His first goal for this game, just snagged it off, roved it beautifully, and kicked the goal. Port Adelaide 17-12, 114 to North Melbourne 9-5, 59. We've gone 13 minutes in the final quarter. Chris Rowbottom, Mick Malthouse, Michael Maney for Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, it's interesting when you analyse games. Todd Goldstein's been outstanding in the ruck, but that bit of ruck play went directly off his hands straight to Drew, who was clearly in the position where he could score from. So you wonder about that.
Straight out of the ruck, Finlayson off his own ruck work onto a loose footy. Sends a ball goal bound, but it misses to the near side for a minor score. So they add 1 to the tally to Port Adelaide.
Yeah. 2 goals 5 for Finlayson.
Yeah. Well, that's a tired ruckman in Goldstein. That was Finlayson jumping over the top of Goldstein. Not that Goldstein's a big jumping ruckman, but he can normally hold him at bay.
Yeah. So North with the relieving footy out of half-back. Oh, Butters! He's been paid the mark, has he? You know, a little bit like Gary Ablett's big hanger a long time ago. But Butters, what a totally wrong name for Butters. He's not soft. I tell you what, he's wrought iron, this young bloke. He's just so tough.
Isn't he? Isn't he one of the toughest going around?
Well, he's crazy tough. You know, he just got no regard for himself at all in any contest. So the ball's ended up with Jonas, who's booted a goal in this game. Yes, Tom Jonas has a goal to Aliir. So they're just waxing it inside the centre square. McKenzie pulled the kick. Up they fly. No one can take the mark. Pau Pepper with the crumb. Handball out. A lot of players around the footy. Picked up and dragged to ground was Evans. No one can get the footy out of there, and the umpire says, give it to me. It's about 20 metres out from the Port Adelaide goal as they kick toward the David Boone stand.
It's been a scrappy old affair as Goldstein rips it out of the ruck. Another clearance for him. Pau Pepper unable to drag it in. Drury hassles in. Rosie bustles on through. Couldn't win a clean possession. It ended up in the lap of Houston, but he was tackled. It'll be another ball up.
Rosie's had an influence, but it's been patchy.
Yeah.
He had a great second and third quarter, but hasn't done much sense.
Bursts.
Butters tackled by Greenwood, fell out to Boku, evaded a couple. Over the top now to Evans, who released Finlayson on the left boot, and he makes good. He's been everywhere, Finlayson, and he puts through his third, and he piles on more pain for North Melbourne. 16 minutes gone in this fourth and final term. Port Adelaide 18-13, 121. North Melbourne 9-5, 59. Mick Malthouse for Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back pre-season and thought that there was 4 or 5 sides that were finished in the top 4 or 5. Didn't have Port near it. The more I've seen of Port, the more I'm convinced now that their side is becoming a little bit more complete. Aliir has been there for a couple of years, or a few years. Cements the back line. Front half has always been patchy against the best sides, and I know North Melbourne certainly aren't the best side, but we're seeing development now with Finlayson as a secondary third tall, and their midfield has just changed, and today has been so much evidence of that, and I know the game's going on, I don't want to cut across you guys, but right now the youth factor in there, the speed in there has just changed the dynamics.
18-13, 121, Port Adelaide, North 9-5, 59. North defending again at the back end of the square. Sheasel with a manufactured little chip out to Shields, who's on the wing in front of the interchange. Kicks toward half forward. Williams comes, in fact, it's Jonas comes from 3 deep. Stevenson got it to Curtis. Here's a chance for Curtis. He's got to hit a target, so he kicks it long. Up they fly. Good mark taken by Butters again. Just all eyes on the ball. No regard for himself. Running with the flight. That's part of his DNA, and his short kick finds Drew, who's kicked a goal in this match. Look at about 12 or 13 goal kickers now. Port Adelaide. It's been staggering the way they've found their way to goal. Alir's got the mark at half back on the outer side. Shorts it up to Houston.
I wonder what the record is for number of goal kickers. That's 13. That's a lot of players.
That's Evans at half back. Kicks to the wing for Port. Flicks over the back, Powell Pepper. Sheasel got there first. They nullify each other. In goes McDonald. Powell Pepper back in for another crack at it. And it'll be a ball up. We've gone 18 minutes in the final term. It is Port Adelaide by 61.
Up it goes, left half forward. Out of there was Finlayson, just tried to scrap it forward, was only as far as Curtis, who didn't win a clean disposal but managed to get it to Shields. He was tackled off the ball. Greenwood gathered it. He was wrapped up by Wines. Andrew Cooling's on the boundary.
Got an update on Luke Davies-Uniacke. He's just reappeared on the bench with that hamstring iced, so going to be out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's a shame. He was influential this afternoon. One of North Melbourne's best as a free kicks plucked out of the ruck contest. It'll go the way of Goldstein, who showed some candy to Teakle. Eventually, he was a little nimble for his own good. His handball was broken up. It came out to Wines, who gave it to Mead. Over the top now to Evans. Tracks the ball inside 50. Gathers it eventually. Taken by Sheasel. Shot on goal is good. McEntee finishes. And Port Adelaide have number 19. They just worked it forward. McEntee gets the spoils. And Port Adelaide moved to 19-13-127. North Melbourne 9-5-59, approaching 20 minutes gone in his fourth and final term. We got a result from Sydney as well at the SCG. Fremantle have defeated Sydney by 17 points. Mick Malthouse.
Wow, that's a big get by Fremantle, particularly the way they've been playing. Anyway, Todd Goldstein, 51 hitouts. Butters, 29 possessions. Both midfielders clearly. Finlayson's jumped up and really been an exciting player and a very, very good player today. Bergman off the half back line. It's been an interesting game in terms of what players now holding up and who can hold up for the next few weeks, given that Port probably cement themselves with percentage as well inside the top 8. With almost a complete side coming. I suspect I'll get a few players back next week.
So the ball has been progressed by Port Adelaide into their forward 50, by North Melbourne, into their forward 50. Now a little chip kick is marked by Drury. Well done. So North went forward, Port trying to defend, but the short kick has spotted up young Drury, who's had a dirty sort of a day, the young fella, but he's never given up. He's fumbled a few balls, but he's been a part of it all. He's going to have a shot from right on the paint of 50. He's only a little fella with the red hair.
Fancies himself. He's
doing all the right things so far.
Yeah, tucked the mouth gun in the sock.
Blake Drury hasn't kicked a goal, so we'd like to get on the list. Here he is, winds it up. He's got some elevation with it. It's fading right away, and it's out on the full.
He took advantage of the rule where the lamppost has to stand still, but what he did wrong was he ran too close to the bloke on the mark, that then gave the umpire the opportunity to call play on. If you're going to do that, give yourself probably 1 or 2 metres to the right, if you're a right footer, of the lamppost.
Booming left foot ball from Farrell out from full back, ends up with Rosie now, who gallops along the outer wing. Handball over the top to Evans, looping handball all the way to half forward to McEntee. Back to Wines via hand. Another looping handball to Houston. He puts it on the boot. It goes 15 metres up in the air and about 5 metres forward. Eventually ends up with Luke McDonald wrapped up big time by Zach Butters. Umpire circles and says, give it to me, please.
Zach Butters, he's not kicking it, he's tackling.
He's an absolute tyro. Zach Butters off the ruck contest, gathered by Evans, immediately wrapped up in another stoppage inside Port Adelaide's attacking zone. As darkness befalls Bellerive Oval, Goldstein tried to hack it out of the contest. Mackay was there, wrapped up by Boak, and another stoppage. So we'll have a ball up, 25 metres out from Port Adelaide's goal. They lead 19-13, 127 to North Melbourne's 9-5-59. Out of the contest, a high ball will go out of bounds on the full, and it'll be a Port Adelaide free kick. Ollie Wines gratefully receives the footy.
Not a big goal kicker, Ollie Wines. He's going to go for the around the corner kick. Favour his right boot, runs out, screws it back. Goal umpire says, Ollie, you've kicked goal number 20 for the power. Just ran around and casually popped it through. And Ollie Wines becomes their 13th goal scorer in this match. So they've spread it around today. They lost Big Charlie early, and they lost Todd Marshall. And
as you say, it's
14.
It is 14. But when you say about losing Dixon before the match, Marshall early into the match, it has changed the dynamics. Finlayson, I think you guys said he kicked 3 goals, 5 or something like that. He's been dangerous, but so many goals have come from medium-sized players, halfbacks, mids. It's great to be able to share the ball and spread the workload, and that's exactly what they've done, Port Adelaide. Their back line. One thing about, I've never really thought of it before about Port. Each of their backline players are thumping long at-good kicks. Takes them into terrific opportunities through September, that sort of play.
And Ollie Lord into the ruck for North Melbourne, went and gathered his own footy, but they've turned it over. Paul Curtis got it to Simpkin and received it back. He glides across the middle of Bellerive and sends a ball out wide to Drury, who gathers the loose ball and makes good on the short kick to Griffin Logue, who marks 65 metres out from goal at right half forward. Puts things into the forward pocket for North Melbourne. Larkey got a shove underneath it, but it was legal, said the umpire, and Jonas took the saving mark. His short ball to Bergman is good. He's had an absolute stack of it as Bergman for Port Adelaide. And one of their best, that's for sure. He sends things beyond defensive 50. Greenwood got up early with a little knee in the back and brought the mark down, handballed it off to Shizu, and Bergman intercepts once again. He's playing one hell of a game.
His kicking is so good, though.
Goes out wide on this occasion to Boak. Broken up by Logue, who gathered the footy, got it off to Scott, who gave it to the other Bergman, whose ball inside 50 was nice. He found Larkey on the lead. He'll kick for goal 25 metres out. Tight angle.
He's an okay Larkey. The opportunities have been few and far between, but when he's had the opportunity, on the lead, he's got good hands, and he's been very accurate. He never overpressures himself with the depth of kick. He sort of weighs it up and just plonks it over the goalkeeper, over the goal up by his head.
So Larkey sends it goalward, and he does exactly that. Mick Malthouse predicts the future from the tight angle. Nick Larkey, who has battled really, really hard this afternoon, he pops through. He's 4th for the afternoon and just cuts the deficit ever so slightly. 2013, 133, Port Adelaide, North Melbourne, 10-5-65, 26 minutes gone. Shadows of full time here at Bellerive, Mick Malthouse.
Well, he's kicked 23 goals for the year, a side that's only won 2 games. Kicked a lot early. I think we've already mentioned he seemed to have injuries and carried them for a few weeks. He looks fit now, he looks good. And when he gets hold of the football, you can just put down the glasses. I mean, they are very, very good shots for goal. There was one in front. The others have been on those angles, and he just knows. He knows his strengths. Very good play.
68 points the difference. Goal in each quarter for Nick Larkey. 1, 2, 3, 4 on my book.
Yep.
And another ball up here in the centre of the ground. Look to picture to Bellerive. The surface just magnificent. Up they go. Greenwood out of the congestion. But Jonas takes the mark in front of Logue. Just about 15 metres outside of his defensive 50 on the outer side as they kick the right of your radio dial. Up goes Jonas's kick, and getting back is the big man in Goldstein, who's completely outpointed Teakle today. Finlayson's been okay. The short kick, Bergman couldn't take the mark, but followed up well. He may end up with it. Teakle did nicely. Got a little worm burner away to Lord. Lord to Rosie's, crunched by Zeeble. It just falls away to Evans. Evans puts it on the boots and misses. Away to the right. Been handy, little Evans. He's had a few slim little pickings, but he hasn't done too badly. 2014-134 Port Adelaide. North Melbourne 10-5, 65. 27, almost 28 gone, Chris Rowbottom.
Aidan Core brings it in to Luke McDonald, who marks at left half back for North Melbourne. Gets things going immediately up the wing. Dan Houston comes across and thumps it out of bounds for a boundary throw-in right in front of the interchange benches, and down where Andrew Cooling is situated for us. Luke Davies-Uniacke is out with a hamstring. If you've just tuned in the dying stages of this game, 6,310 the attendance here at Bellerive this afternoon. According to the scoreboard, there's a free kick out of the ruck contest. It'll go to Goldstein. He has been dominant. 22 hit-outs, 54 hit-outs and 22 disposals to Goldstein. Make that 23. This one's not his finest, though. He puts it straight down the throat of Mead, who takes the defensive mark at right half-back for Port Adelaide.
Are you up for a bit of deja vu, Chris?
I am.
Round 9, 2022, Port won by 69 points. What's the margin now?
At this very arena, 69 points it is as we speak, as Houston chops off the handball, feeds it to Butters, looks inside, beautiful kick inboard to Evans, who hands it off to Wines, looping handball over the top to Finlayson, drilling ball inside, getting in front, saving chest mark, sliding on his knees was Zeeble, who hits a target laterally. Ben Mackay marks in the right back pocket for North Melbourne.
Finlayson keeping the dream alive for 69 points. Ill-directed kick. Mackay just feeds it back to Zeeble, who's toiled hard, it has to be said. Hasn't been able to make much of an influence, as you technically can't. That could be a 50 metres against Butters as Taylor takes the mark at half-back, kicks to the wing, pulled the kick, and I don't know why, because Houston just took an uncontested mark. Right on the wing, in front of the interchange gates, about 20 metres from there inboard. Shaped to go long and then pulled the kick to Wines. Now, Wines has been told to play on. It mightn't have been 15, but the kick from Wines was exquisite and found Lord, who's really sucking him in. His Ollie, he's had a big day. He's covered some territory. He's shown some promise. He's got something, this kid, hasn't he, Mick?
Oh, absolutely he has. I'm just looking at the body language of the Port players. Ollie Wines kicked that ball beautifully. Now, it's deep in the last quarter. He's a Brownlow medalist. He's been around with the traps for a long time. 7 or 8 of his players ran across to him and patted him on the back. So I reckon that's a statement that he might be under a bit of pressure in the media in South Australia.
Here's the kick from Lord on the siren, and it just flicks away for a behind. And that's all she wrote from Bellerive. A 70-point win to Port Adelaide. They booted 20 goals, 15, 135 to North Melbourne, 10-5, 65. And Port Adelaide get another win. That is 6 in a row for Port.
We are the power from Port. It's more than a sport. It's a true Port Adelaide tradition. We'll never stop till we're top. There's history here in the making. We've got the power to win. We'll never give in till the flag is ours for the taking.
Yes, a commanding win by Port Adelaide here in Bellerive. 2015, 135 the visitors. They defeat North Melbourne 10-5-65, and as Michael Maney just said, it's 6 on the trot for Port Adelaide. 70-point winners here in Hobart in what was a commanding performance from go to woe. They led by 1 point at quarter time. They blew that out to 45 at half time. It was a 48-point margin at three-quarter time, and eventually a 70-point win for Port Adelaide. The goal kickers for you this afternoon for the winning team, Port. Jeremy Finlayson kicked 3 goals, 5 to go with 20 disposals and 7 hit-outs. A great all-round game. Riley Bonner kicked 2. Francis Evans kicked 2. Bear with me, this might take a while. Pau Pepper kicked 2. Jed McEntee kicked 2. Ollie Lord kicked 1. Teakle, Boak, Burton, Drew, Horn Francis, Jonas, Mead and Wines all kicked goals. Staggeringly, Mick Malthouse and Michael Maney, 14 individual goal kickers. Rosie and Butters weren't amongst them.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting for North Melbourne. The goal kickers, well, Nick Larkey toiled really hard all day. He kicked 4 goals, 1 from his 9 disposals. Stevenson 2, Zerhard 2 in singles to Curtis and Logue. Some of the possession winners. Luke Davies-Uniacke had 29 for North Melbourne. A story there, though, because he looks to have pinged a left hamstring. We might talk a little bit more about that very shortly. But Butters led all comers with 32 for Port Adelaide. Rosie had 25. Ollie Wines had 22. And Bergman had 21. North Melbourne, as I mentioned, Luke Davies-Uniacke had 29. Zeeble had 27. Simpkin 26. Goldstein 24 and Sheasel 22. So a dominant performance here in Hobart by Port Adelaide, who stretched their winning streak to 6 70-point winners over North Melbourne in what, in the end, Mick Malthouse, was a reasonably disappointing finish for the home team.
Yeah, it was. It's sad in many respects. Coming over on the flight, so many North Melbourne people. I know, look, they'll stick with them through thick and thin. There's no question about that. But I suspected just by the talks that they thought, you know, we've got a chance here. This is our ground. Port put a good side, but they were yahooing because Dixon wasn't playing, and then to lose Marshall. But they were all over them, Port. After quarter time, they got their game going. They had their run going. Had players. It's difficult to say. Well, put it this way: North had more possessions. And this is where I start to get really nervous about sides. They get more possessions. They go inside the front 50 17 times less. It tells you about the type of possessions, where they get them, how they get them, and what they're doing with them. Whereas Port were far more direct. And I said before, their backline kicking is just... no wonder they can get the ball clear out of their backline, Port Adelaide. They are just a fantastic kicking side. Lengthwise... and direction-wise, and they really cut North apart when they were able to get the ball off the half-back line. Their midfield, Port's midfield, I know Davies-Uniacke and Simpkin, they got a lot of football, and Goldstein, for that matter. He had 55 hit-outs and 24 possessions himself, 5 marks. Probably not enough marks for a player that has that many possessions as a ruckman, but nonetheless, 55 hit-outs is fantastic. But then you look at Rosie, had a quarter where he just split North Melbourne apart. Butters was at them all day. Bergman off a half-back line. Finlayson, I didn't have him in the best up until half-time. Then he just started to take over. 3 goals, 5. Actually out-rucked Goldstein on a couple of the occasions, out-jumping him. No wonder for old Toddy Goldstein, who was glued to the ground by that stage, so tired. But they are a genuine finals 8, and I think the damage done by Fremantle up in Sydney probably enhances that now. You cannot afford to drop games at home. This is a double whammy. I know they didn't play each other, but they are fighting for 5th to 8th in my book. I think the top 4 can be reasonably settled with the top 4 sides, but from there on in, Port are doing enough now, and I work on maths pretty much that if you've won, you probably need 13 to make the 8, depending on these bottom sides, if they can win a couple of games, because it might mean 14, but that's 13 games. What have they won now? They've won 7 games. My way, they only need 6 more to make the 8. Any more on top of that means that they're going to enhance themselves to get up closer to that top 4 where every side wants to get. So they're doing everything right. they'll probably get Dixon back over the next week or two. Marshall, I have this horrid feeling that Marshall has been a couple of times concussed. I'll stand corrected on that. And if he has, that is a major problem, because no one's like, I think the 1 week mandatory miss, if you've been double concussed over a short period of 3 or 4 months, I think you need to miss a lot more. Anyway, it's a very, very good win. I'll ask you guys, 6,000 people, is that what was expected today?
That was about bang on what was expected here today. I would have said between 6 and 7.
Right, okay. So
it's a small crowd, but Saturday crowds in Hobart between, I guess, underperforming teams like North Melbourne and Port Adelaide, which doesn't have a huge fan base here in
I'll tell you what, there are
Hobart.
a few here.
There are a few.
There are a few. Port Adelaide, just down below us here, there's a big cluster of them, and there's a horde of them over the other side of the ground there. So they would have made up 300 or 400 or more.
Yeah, they certainly got here to this race to cheer their side down the race.
Yeah,
so
Jason Horne-Francis, all eyes were on him. Just quickly, Mick, 15 disposals and a goal. I thought it was a B+ sort of game.
I thought his early part of his game, he looked nervous. He was, I think he's not a player that worries about physical contact. I think mentally, I just reckon that he may have been just not quite right. But as the game went on, took a couple of hits, got involved in the game. I thought he just got better as the game went on.
And just quickly, Mick, your votes.
Yes, I'm going to give one to Miles Bergman off a half-back flank. I thought he was outstanding. He was impassable. Finlayson, I'm going to say right now, Finlayson could have been in that position. I just unfortunately couldn't fit him in. Goldstein, I just could not. In a big loss like that, he has to be. He was so dominant in the ruck. His clearance rate was fantastic. But Butters, to me, played four quarters of football, tough football, very good football. Won a lot of the good, hard footballs in close. Carried it and was outstanding. Butters 3.
Thank you for all your input, Mick. Thank you to you, Michael Maney, and thank you to Andrew Cooling also downstairs. It's been a pleasure bringing you all the coverage from here at Bellerive, where Port Adelaide have knocked off North Melbourne 2015 135 to 10-5 65. Comprehensive 70-point winners here in Hobart. They win their 6th straight. That's all from us from here at Bellerive. From now, though, you're off to the MCG, where Hawthorn is taking on Melbourne with Matt Clinch and Ben Cameron.
And